So let's start the TRICO final event. I'm Maarit Halttunen from VTT Technical Research Center of Finland, and I'm the coordinator of TRICO project. And I would like to warmly welcome you all to this final event of TRICO project. Today we have very inspiring agenda ahead, and we will hear speakers from our TRICO experts, and then we have some special guests also participating today as speakers. So just a quick reminder about today's agenda. So we will be having 4 sessions altogether, each of them with a duration of 1 hour. And we also do have 4 different themes. So first session will start very soon with the certification, and then we go into social innovation. And after a short coffee break, we will continue with policy issues, and then last but not least, we will take a look into the consumer perspective. Today, you feel free to go away and join again. You can just join one session, or of course, we hope that many of you will join the whole event. But in any case, also we encourage all of you to raise questions for the speakers. You can do that via chat function, or then you can just raise your hand and the speaker will ask your comments if you prefer to state your comments verbally. But yes, do participate and pose questions. Each speaker will get to those at a suitable point of his or her presentation. But before we go to the actual agenda, I want to give a very brief TRICO project overview in case some of you aren't that familiar with TRICO project. So this project has been coordinated by VTT Finland. And the TRICO, what does it actually mean? It comes from the words concise consumer communication through robust labels for bio-based systems. It's a Horizon Europe project, and we started almost 3 years ago. And the project will officially reach its end until the January next month. So we still have a few more months to go, but at this point, we are starting to have basically all our results ready. The project has 9 partners from 7 countries altogether, and you can see the partners in the pictures, and I'm sure that you will familiarize with the partners more specifically and their expertise more specifically during this day. So I will not go into the details now. What might be very important to know before we start is what have been the goal of TRICO project. Well, the overall goal has been to support the green purchasing decisions. How then have we aimed to reach this goal? Well, actually, we have threefold approach to this goal. So first of all, we have assessed the current label and certification schemes. And as an output, we have gathered and piled up a label design guidelines. And secondly, we have assessed the consumer behavior in wide consumer studies and ended up with digital solutions that are supporting consumers' decision making towards more sustainable decisions. And lastly, we have assessed variety of social measures and ended up into a pile of recommendations for those social measures. And as a result of all this work, we hope that we have succeeded in unlocking the full potential of bioeconomy for industrial bio-based products. That's the big picture, but without further speaking for myself, I would now like to go into the actual agenda and give the floor to Martin from the University of Utrecht, who is moderating the first session. So on my behalf, enjoy the day, and Martin, you may take the stage.
Thank you very much, Marit. It's a pleasure to host the very first session of this morning about certification and labeling. My name is Martin Junginger, Utrecht University. I've been leading the work package 1 in the 3-core project about certification and labeling, assessing the current labeling schemes and certification systems, identifying their strengths, also their weaknesses, and how we can communicate that efficiently to consumers. And that's also at the core of today's session. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you in a moment 3 speakers. First, we'll be speaking Margot Le Gallou from ECOS. Then we have Laura Hashimi from ENIDE. Unfortunately, Philippe de Wolf, due to private circumstances, could not join us last minute, but I'm very happy that we found on a very short notice Dr. Luana Ladou from the TU Berlin to be the 3rd speaker for today. And so the first one speaking will be Margot Le Gallou. She's the program manager for environmental information assessment at ECOS. She works to improve standards and legislation on green claims, greenwashing, digital product passports, and lifecycle assessment, coordinating horizontally across ECOS. Before she joined ECOS, she also worked on policies to support eco-innovation and the circular economy. She holds a master in international affairs and political sciences, and as well a master in economics. So Margot, the floor is yours for the first presentation.
Thank you. So I'm gonna start by sharing my presentation. All right. I hope you're seeing it well. All right. Yeah, so today I'm gonna talk about the role of labels in sustainable consumption. So it's gonna be based a lot on the results of the 3-core project. So first of all, just to give you a little bit of an introduction, so my name is Margot Le Gallou. As said by Martin, I work at ECOS. So to give you a bit of a background where we come from, so ECOS stands for the Environmental Coalition Standards. We're an international NGO, and we work to advocate for environmentally friendly technical standards, policies, and laws. So our work in this project has been to look at how labels can support consumers, as Marit has presented a little bit earlier. And so the starting point is, what's the challenge for consumers at the moment? We have hundreds of sustainability labels that exist. On the EU market, there's about 300 of them, and not all of them are reliable or transparent at the moment. So that's a bit prior to new legislation that is kicking in next year. We have some labels that are added by companies on their own products, so they are not based on independent labeling schemes. You have also labels that do not require an independent certification process, and that means that you have a very big variety of labels and reliability in terms of what they actually certify, whether they have verified the information that companies have given them or not, but also the criteria that they cover and things like this. This results in consumers that want to make good choices facing confusion and mistrust. So there's a number that's often floating around that was found on research by the European Commission on environmental claims, so beyond labels, but claims in general, that half of them are either misleading or not properly, that there's no proper data behind them to prove their point. And so we're been in this situation at the moment where consumers don't really understand what labels do, they don't really know how to identify them. They don't necessarily know what's behind them. And the point of this project was to find ways to improve this. So what's the role of labels exactly? What are they doing? Well, first of all, and they do this a bit in parallel. So you have first work with companies to adopt best practices. So in the process of certifying products, there are labels where you just apply for them, and if you tick all the criteria, you get the label. But you also have labels where the labeling schemes is going to work with the companies to help them improve their practices and be able to tick the criteria list. Second of all, they help differentiate products on the market. That's the main reason companies would apply for a label, is because that way their products are going to stand out. So the big part of the work of a label is to realize this, is the whole marketing behind having a label that is really going to stand out on a product, that is going to be recognized. There's a lot of awareness campaigns being done for the label to be known by consumers. So there's a lot of work on this. And of course, you have the consumer aspect, which is to give them trust signals. The trust signal is the little logo, and they should, like, if the label has done the right kind of information campaign, if they've done their work right, consumers should be able to trust that label. And obviously, all that is only effective if the system behind the labeling schemes is reliable and clear. So I'm going to later describe what that actually means. In our research, so we worked over the past 3 years on about 25 labeling schemes across 10 bio-based value chains. So really a variety of products. You had mattresses, baby clothing, shampoos, wooden made houses, t-shirts. So really quite a variety of products. And we also tried to have a representation of the diversity of labeling schemes on the market at the moment. So we covered eco-labels, such as the Nordics one and the Blue Angel. We covered labels that are really sector-specific, such as FSC or the Better Cotton Initiative. We had quite a few in the textile sector. Well, so because we have this strong focus on bio-based product, we looked at these labels that really focus on bio-based products. So that ISCC+, ERSB Global Advanced Product Certification, and a few others. Because we look at sustainability, not just environmental sustainability, we added labels that have a strong social focus. And the main example in our panel is the Union for Ethical Biotrade, which is certifying ingredients in cosmetics. So, and we looked at especially how do they communicate to consumers? What is their logo looking like? What's on their website? What kind of information is available? And is it understandable by consumers? What are the criteria that they cover? Are they covering only environmental, also social? What's the depth of it? And finally, we looked at best practices and room for improvement. This resulted in a report, which you can find on our website, which really describes what we consider to be good best practices for communicating to consumers specifically. So a bit of a summary of our analysis on criteria coverage. So what we found is that our labeling schemes predominantly cover environmental aspects. You have a lot of things on chemical use, on waste management, on pollution and water resources. You also have a few emerging topics, which we find extremely important, especially because they're very much at the top of the policy agenda at the moment, which are circularity, climate change, and biodiversity. And finally, in terms of social aspects, so this was a bit less covered, but it's also covered at levels that is a bit more varying than for environmental aspects. Very commonly, they're going to address child labor, discrimination, and gender equality, but any criteria beyond basic human rights are still quite rare. So it's really looking at the basic level. And so what we've concluded is that most of the very relevant aspects are covered by at least some labeling schemes, but not all the labeling schemes can cover them all. I mean, there's not one labeling scheme that covers them all. So really, that also explains why you have so many labeling schemes, because not a single one can do it all. So then comes a bit the question on how do you manage, how do you ensure consumers are informed when you actually need to have so many labeling schemes on the market and potentially several logos on a product? So that leads us to the challenges that labeling schemes are facing. First of all, labeling schemes must manage a lot of expectations from society and policy and consumers. There are expectations on the scope of certification, on the strictness of criteria, and we must remember that labels are just one tool to guide choice among many others, and especially regulation, for example, which I'll talk about later today. So one of the first things that they face is something that's called the mainstreaming paradox. So if a scheme wants to really be the best scheme and only cover the best-in-class products, they're going to attract not that many companies because they're going to be pretty expensive to attain certification, and also not many products are going to pass the test. But if they want to become a bigger label and talk to more companies and maybe be better known by consumers, they may have to loosen the criteria. And so that's how you end up sometimes in one sector, have two labels. One label is going to be quite strict and have very few certificates, and another one is going to be a bit loosen and work with more companies on the idea of helping to lift up even the worst ones. But then obviously the products that are going to be certified are likely to be less sustainable than those certified by the first label. So that's also what creates sometimes confusion with consumers. Another big thing is that nowadays there is a strong expectation that labels can prove the real-world impact of their certification work. For a very long time, labeling schemes were, in their impact report, were talking about the number of certificates, so how many products they have certified over time or at a given moment. And the thing is that there is this assumption, so criteria are a proxy for environmental improvements. They're not a measure of the actual impact on the planet. They're a proxy. We understand that if we have less energy consumption, it's going to be better. But how does that actually translate in real data? And so nowadays, there's this expectation that labeling schemes can give information on this. And so there's a lot of work being done to develop methodologies and data collection to access this. It means that some labeling schemes are also investing a lot in more data management and data research to actually get these numbers, but it's often very, very complicated. Another challenge is the risk of overlap and proliferation. So I've already discussed this question of the mainstreaming paradox, where you can have different labels on one sector certifying more or less the same thing, but with very different criteria. But you also have the fact that that's something that especially impacts eco-labels. So eco-labels address they have criteria over the whole life cycle of a product. And so they try to address all the big environmental impacts. Often they're also going to add social criteria because there's a very strong demand from consumers on this. And over time, they increase the number of criteria. Some started in the 70s with maybe 2, 3, 4 criteria, and now they have dozens. And obviously for labeling schemes, it means a lot of work in terms of developing the very detailed methodology for each criteria and doing the whole certification process for each criteria. And for a company that wants to apply to this eco-label, this might be a lot of work. So what happens is that you're going to have eco-labels that are going to collaborate with other more specialized labeling schemes to be there as a proxy for the certification. So for example, in the EU eco-label on paper-based products, there's a criteria on forest management. And what they say is, if a company has a certification for FSC or PEFC, that counts. That criteria on forest management is ticked. And then they can move on to the next criteria. So you have a bit this nesting of more specialized labeling schemes into wider labeling schemes, typically eco-labels. And so that's something that we looked into, like, is that a good thing? Does that create risk in terms of reputation for the eco-label? Is it a dilution of the certification process? And so, yeah, that's a point of discussion at the moment, and that's very certainly going to increase. And finally, another point is that while all these labeling schemes are targeting consumers and they want to influence consumer choice and they want to answer to consumers' demands, very few actually include consumers in their governance. You have eco-labels, they include them quite often on their board. They include consumer organization. But you also have these labels that often originated from the B2B sector. So labeling schemes that were certifying products from suppliers to companies buying them later in the value chain. And often they don't really have this tradition of involving consumers and working with consumers. And that's especially the case in schemes with a strong bio-based focus, because a lot of them come from the B2B sector. And so that's something that we highlighted as a bit of a problem and something that should evolve over time if these schemes really want to talk to consumers and have an impact on consumer behavior. So I said what I said at the beginning is that we looked specifically at how labeling can communicate to consumers. What are the information that are given? And that's where our best practices were mostly focused on. So there's a bit of a global consensus. If you look at regulations, national guidance from consumer authorities, standards, whether international or European, that there are 5 key pillars to communication. Accessibility, clarity, reliability, relevance, and transparency. These are the 5 pillars, especially the UNEP guidance for companies communicating on sustainability of products. And these are our pillars to assess what were the good practices of companies, of labeling schemes, sorry. And so generally, what we've noticed is that eco-labels tend to outperform more specialized B2B schemes, especially when it comes to communicating on the logo or the label, communicating on the websites, and making claims that are very, very detailed for consumers. So they will propose claims that companies can add next to the logo on the product. Schemes that have a long B2C history, such as FSC, also tend to adopt more good practices. So it really shows that there's a matter of experience. The longer you work with consumer, the better you're going to be at communicating with them. That's a bit of an obvious one, but it was very clear in our research. And something that we noticed, and that is a problem that's also being discussed among eco-labels and in standardization world, is that it's rarely possible to distinguish labels that are best in class or that have a full life cycle approach from other types of label when you look just at a product. So that's also something that definitely increases confusion. Too often, logos and claims like clarity, especially on the scope, or on things like grades. So when they're gonna propose like 5 stars, 4 stars, what does that even mean? And sometimes you see, oh, there's 5 stars. What they don't tell you is that you could have 6. So there's a lot of imprecision there, and that's something where communication could definitely be improved for schemes that use this. And on attribution. So especially in the textile sector, or so whenever you're going to use a chain of custody model for your materials, the exact chain of custody model, that's very complicated things. This is very complicated to communicate to consumers. Some schemes will give you the whole technical information, which is useless for consumers, but at least good for transparency. Others will not give you that much information. And some will communicate something that's more appropriate to consumers, which is, for example, to say, hey, we've used the mass balance system. We cannot guarantee that the certified fiber is in your t-shirt. But overall, this sustainable fiber has been bought somewhere and has ended up somewhere. So there you have certain practices that are evolving, especially evolving with court cases from consumer authorities. So that's definitely something to look, something that's evolving very quickly. Also because we've got lots of standardization happening in that sector. And so this, so to conclude, we have some really good guidance for claims and explanatory statement that exist on the market. We really invite labels to look at each other and look at how the really best performers, such as eco-labels. We had really good example from the EU eco-label and the Blue Angel. How do they communicate to consumer? Look into this, improve how you communicate. And we also had this broader question of, if you have a very, very niche label, you're only looking at one specific criteria, such as the percentage of bio-based content. Do you really add value for a consumer when you're displayed on a product? Or should you rather be incorporated in a wider label, such as an eco-label? That's a bit an open question for us. So that'd be interesting to ask it for you. Happy to get inputs on that in the comment later on. So to conclude, I'm going to wrap up. So our key takeaways is that labels are essential, but they have to be robust, clear, and trusted. And there's lots of work to be done there. We see opportunities for collaboration to reduce overlaps and raise ambition among labels. And finally, 3Co has been building tools to empower consumers in the bio-based sector. And so we really invite you to look at our results, and you hopefully will find very interesting information there. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Margot. And in the interest of time, we will move right to the next speaker, but I would like to repeat for those of you who have joined in the meantime, if you have questions to Margot or any of the other speakers, please feel free to put them in the Q&A in the question and answer chat box, and we will come to it at the very end of this session. So please make sure that you mention whom you want to have the questions addressed to, and we'll get to it at the very end. So the next speaker will be Loa Hashimi. I think Margot made it very clear that communicating what is behind the label certification scheme is very complex, very challenging, and that's why one of the key outputs of the 3Core project was also an app, which will be presented by Loa Hashimi. Loa is a researcher and innovation expert at the where she focuses on sustainability, digitalization, and EU-funded innovation projects. And in the 3Core project, NIDA developed a digital platform and leads the exploitation activities supporting the transition towards more transparent and sustainable consumer choices. Please, Laura, tell us about the 3Core app.
Thank you so much, Martijn. And I will be talking you through the app, but I'm also accompanied with by my colleague Arman, who will do a short demo. He is our technical guy. I didn't have that capabilities actually to share a screen of the app, so I invited him actually, if possible, to do a short demo for us. So I will probably repeat most of the things Margot actually talked about. What was the main problem? Why we decided to develop the app? Just to start, actually, there was a survey which showed that 72% of EU consumers say that they want to make sustainable choices, but only 1 out of 5 end up doing sustainable choices. And when you dig a little bit deeper to what is the problem, you see that most consumers either they actually are confused with this, what we call label jungle, when they want to search for eco label. There are many of them and they really don't know what they stand for, what is the meaning, as Margot was explaining. But also there is another problem. It's like where we find those sustainable products. In the interviews, focus groups that we conducted actually in the 3Core project, that probably later on Agnieszka and some other colleagues will also deep dive on them or about them. We found that there are consumers, they believe that there are too many labels in the market. This is 77% of consumers that we interviewed. 60% of them, they say that they don't know what the labels mean. 20.5% mentioned that only few labels are credible. So there is also the problem of greenwashing and mistrust of consumers towards the labels. And 87% of them, they mentioned that there is a digital solution need, or a digital solution can help them take more sustainable decisions. But also they mentioned what they want this digital solution to have, or what are some of the needs that can be solved by a digital solution. The first one was clarity. They mentioned that this quote actually comes from one of the interviewees, which says, "I want to understand what the label means, not just to see a logo." This is what also was explained thoroughly by Margot. Another one actually says that they want something more simple. So clarity is important, but also simplicity when it comes to digital solution becomes super important. And over 70% preferred mobile-friendly visuals over technical documents. So Margot mentioned that some label schemes actually they provide more technical details, some less. But consumers, in most cases, they don't have that much time to go through all those technical documents. So they want something really simple, visual through a digital solution. Community and trust. Users valued community reviews for products, but trusted experts to assess eco labels. So they want to make sure that products have labels, but they want someone else to do the evaluation of the eco labels, not them evaluating whether the label is trustworthy or not. And they also had or showed the desire to learn. Many of them welcome short facts or videos explaining sustainability terms. And this is what we actually tried to base ourselves on when developing the application. The application that will be now presented by my colleague Armand, it has these 4 sections. The first one is a scan, which enables you to scan the products and understand the labels. Then we also have the search and compare part where you can access our offline database of the labels. Even if the scan doesn't work, then we want to make sure that you still find the relevant information about the labels. Then we have another section which is called engaged, where you can find other products listed by other consumers, reviewed or commented. And then we have got the learn section where you can find some educational material. So without further ado, I give the floor to Armand, who can show you all these sections and how it looks and how you can use it. Armand, the floor is yours. Can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Nice.
Maybe I should stop sharing before. Wait a
I
minute.
don't know.
Yeah, now you can probably share your screen.
Okay. I hope you can see now the screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So thank you, Loha, for the introduction. As Loha said, the app consists in 3 main sections, which is the certifications, the products, and the learn sections. And we're gonna see it right now. So as you can see here, we can enter the app while logging or as a guest. So the logged users will have some capabilities that the guest users won't have, and I'm gonna start as a logged guest, as a guest, so you can see what capabilities does the logged user have that the guest not. Okay, so the first view we can see in the app is a featured level. So every time you enter the application, you will see a new certification. So you have more knowledge about the ecosystem. If you need more information, you can just click it and it will show a little bit more info about this certification. You also have a list. It's an offline list, so either you are connected to the internet or not, you can see all the labels that we have in this application. And each one you click, you will have more info, as I showed you previously. We can search by name. Let's say that we search the 80 plus. And you also can search or filter by shapes, colors, and categories. Let's say that Loha told you about scan capability. So we have it right here. We can either take a picture or send a photo from our gallery. I'm gonna send a photo from my gallery. As you can see, I have here this one. It's an internet one, but it doesn't matter. So as you send the image, it detects some levels and tell you which level is also some information about it. And as you can see, it tells here that you should register as Trico users to get rewards. So if you are not a user, you will not earn badges. So this is a gamification feature that we and Warsaw University developed that encourage users to use the app more frequently. Okay, we can go now to the product section. As you can see, we have here some products. It's products from the store that are eco-friendly and so on. You can post new products and you can review them. As you can see here, there's a reviewer. You can also search it in Google. It uses the name that the post creator give to that post, and it searches from Google. Okay, so you can either find it or not depending on the user input. Okay, so if you are a guest user, you cannot post. You should migrate to user. Also for the reviews. So if you are not logged in user, you cannot review that products. You can also search by name and use a filter by categories. And to finalize, we have here the Learn section that consists in some courses, some fact sheets, trainings, and videos that the partners of the project gave us. This can be improved. So if some of you want to add something that may be good for the knowledge of the people using this app, it can be added here. And yeah, that would be all within the app. We also have the account section, and here would be the rewards. Yep, that's pretty all. Yeah.
Thank you, Armand. So hopefully later on, once we open the floor, if the audience have any question. By the way, if you have any questions right now and you want to just write it down for later to be answered, please do so. I'm going to share again my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So perfect. So as you see, we have got a sweet spot here for the 3Co app. It is not just the consumers that they want to take more sustainable choices and they are searching for solutions, but also the policy is pushing towards sustainability, and we are more digital than ever. So it's also a good timing because everyone has got their mobile phone with them all the time. So the app hopefully will be used widely by consumers and it will help them in the process. But also, it's not just consumers who can benefit from the app. As Margot was saying, most of the time labels themselves benefit the businesses, but also the app in this case benefits the businesses and brands. They can post their products that Armand was showing in our engage section. This way, hopefully, consumers can find them much easier. And also, consumers can review their products or put comments. And this way, they will increase the trust on their products. But we are also hoping that we help the policymakers and the label bodies by coming up with a more visual and better user-friendly way of explaining what the labels stand and also increase the awareness and education of consumers about the label schemes. If you would like to try it yourself, here you've got the QR code for both Android and iOS. I would like to leave it for a few seconds so that you get the time to scan it. You see that it's a research project, so any feedback, as Armand was saying, is more than welcome. We are improving the app daily, and we would like to integrate new features. Now, maybe you also soon will find the app in other languages, which we have actually received the feedback from some of the shops and brands we have started collaborating with. If you would like to try it yourself and give us some feedback, you're more than welcome to do so. Otherwise, we always actually encourage you to put some of the products you like. Right now, you might find some products in Spain because this is where we are based in, and our colleagues are really kind and nice, and some of our users actually to go and scan some products from different shops. Do so also in any country that you're based in. Please use the app as much as possible. And that can help us also to widen the community. If you have any questions, please do send me an email. I will also leave the slide for a few seconds so that you take a screenshot. Otherwise, you can also contact anyone in Trico, and they would be, I'm sure that they would be happy to connect you with us. So back to you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Loa. And indeed, we would very much encourage the use of the app, but also asking questions. I can already see a first comment in the chat. So please, if you have questions to Loa, put them in the chat. And in the meantime, I would like to introduce our third speaker, Luana Ladou, who was fortunately able to join us on short notice. Next to Threeco, there were also several other EU-based projects which looked at certification schemes for assessing bio-based products. One of them was Star for BBS, and Dr. Luana Ladou was the leader of that project. She is a scientific project lead at the Technical University of Berlin with over 15 years of experience in sustainability assessment, standardization, certification, and quality infrastructure. She has a proven track record in securing and managing large-scale EU and nationally funded research and innovation projects. And as I just mentioned, she also led one of the 3 projects which developed the BMT, which Luana will tell us in the next 15 minutes about. Luana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Martin, and good morning, everyone. So as Martin said, I will present today the Biobased Set Monitoring Tool. This is a tool that was created by the cluster, Biobased Set Cluster. It's a cluster of 3 Horizon projects: the System for Biobased, led by Wageningen University, Staff for BBS, led by us, as Martin said, and then Monitor Project, led by SQ Consult. And the 3 projects, they answer basically the same call for proposal from the Horizon Cluster 6 2021 Zero Pollution Call. So we decided since the beginning to join efforts and to work together in joint outputs. And so the objective was basically to assess effectiveness and robustness of schemes and labels applicable to bio-based systems. And one of the major outputs of our joint work was this BMT. Just to give you a background information, as we already have this morning, we have different challenges linked to certification schemes and labels, and especially the fact that recently we have a rapid proliferation of the schemes and labels, and these schemes have different level of effectiveness, and also the reliability of the schemes has been questioned in the last years. And this is where our tool comes into play. And so our tool, the Biobased Set Monitoring Tool, is a tool that aims to assess robustness, comprehensiveness, and effectiveness of existing schemes and labels applicable to bio-based systems. And the idea is that our major audience will be the EU policymakers and also schemes owners. On one hand, the policymakers, the idea is that to provide them with more transparency on the performance of sustainability schemes and labels, and also to provide them with an understanding on how these schemes work, and also how these schemes are contributing to achieving sustainability priorities of the EU, but also to leverage how these schemes can be used to complement regulatory implementation. And for scheme owners, the idea is that our tool can provide a way to identify existing gaps, also room for improvements in the scheme themselves. And also the major aim is also to promote harmonization among criteria in governance. Our tool is applicable to only to bio-based value chain, industrial bio-based value chain, so we exclude food and feed, and fuels. And also we are covering the entire value chain, and we mostly focus on certification schemes applicable to bio-based product produced or traded within the EU, mostly. The structure of the tool is basically we have a database with different indicators that can be used to conduct the assessment, and these indicators are divided in 3 major levels: system level, content level, and outcome levels, and each level was coordinated by one of the 3 projects. And in addition to the indicators part, we have also one part linked to the interpretation of the results, but also communication of the results. How can we make sure that we are communicating the result of the assessments in a way that are tailored to the audience that we are addressing? And so regarding the system level, it was coordinated by Staff for BBS, and this level was dealing with governance aspects of the scheme. So how are the schemes, the standard setting of the scheme done, for example? How is the assurance system? Traceability and claims, for example, of governance of the scheme. Are the stakeholders involved? For example, we heard the day before, one challenge is the lack of consumers in the setting of the scheme, for example. So these are all the aspects that we studied, that we analyzed in this system system level. Then we went to the outcome, to the content level, was led by Society for Biobased. In this content, we're trying to look at the sustainability coverage of the schemes, looking at environmental, social, circularity, and economic pillars. So we are looking, for example, about environmental management or climate change management or air quality. So different aspects due to environmental sustainability. Regarding social aspect, we look, for example, at the well-being of local community or labor and human rights, for example. And for circularity, just to give an example, we look at the circular resource use. And regarding economic sustainability, we look, for example, at the fair business practices. So we had in total many indicators assessing this sustainability coverage. And regarding the outcome level, this one was mostly focused on the progress, how to measure the progress of the operator themselves over time, but also to look how we can measure the progress in terms of impacts, so the effectiveness of the schemes. Can we measure, for example, climate change impact over time, for example, of the schemes? And the process for developing this tool was very long and intensive. We had a lot of stakeholder interaction involving, once the first draft of the tool was ready, we involved the schemes themselves in 2 pilot testing rounds. In the first round, we had RSP, FSC, and Nordic Swan. And then after the first round, we improved the indicators and the requirement based on the first assessment. Then went to the second assessment where we engaged with better quota, both sucrose, eco-label, better biomass, SBP, and ICC+. So we had a long interaction with them and also with many other stakeholders in different events that we did throughout our projects. And the way it works, basically the assessment, there is first of all a pre-screening assessment, especially for the system level and content level, to identify the scope of the labels and schemes. Then we need to check if the compliance is assessed with the documents that we can find in the web page of the schemes, for example. For the outcome level, many interviews were conducted to engage more with the scheme owners. And then we engage, as we said, the scheme owners since the first moment we start testing the tool. And they provided a lot of feedback that could be used for continuous improvement. However, so our tool is basically an Excel tool based on 3 sheets, 1 for each level. And there is, of course, room for improvement because we have experienced that the implementation of this tool requires manual data entry and calculations. So this is very time consuming and can also provide some errors maybe. Then it's also a limited user accessibility because for some users it can be difficult to use the Excel tool, and also needs to the use of independent expert to conduct the assessment. And so this is why what we did, the cluster decided to move forward to provide some solution to these challenges, and we developed this web-based tool. It's a user-friendly online version of the Excel template. And this one can enhance accessibility, visualization, and also you can download a report on your assessment instantly. So you can also use it for improving automatic scoring and processing. And as I said, you can download the assessment and you can, of course, conduct it in a way of self-assessment, for example, for scheme owners. And just to show you how, here's the link to the tool if you want to use the tool, and I invite you to use the tool, but also would like to show you a video on how the tools works. So I'll give the floor to my colleague to show you the video. I need to share. Yes, just 1 second, because I need to share also the audio.
You have to stop sharing.
Yes, I will stop sharing. One second. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Is that what you see?
No. It's not working.
1 second, it's coming.
I cannot share this sound for some reason. I don't know.
Somehow we're able to share the sound. I can try again. I'm sorry for this. I'm really sorry. Try here to share here. I will share the screen again myself. So to stop share, nothing. Sorry. Here. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. We can hear something, but we do not see the screen yet.
You see the video. You can hear the video.
Introducing the
We can hear the
Biobased
video, but
Systems
we cannot see it,
monitoring tool.
unfortunately.
Because you're not sharing your
BMT,
screen yet.
Okay, 1 second. Oh, sorry. Now I have to share the video as well. Now, can you see now? Sorry.
I think so. Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Can you hear now?
Unfortunately, we cannot hear it now.
Oh, so okay. 1 second. I will try the last time. Otherwise,
Give it another try, and otherwise we just start with the Q&A.
And labels across
Now we can
the
hear it, but we
Biobased
cannot see it.
Systems. Developed by the EU-funded projects STAR4
1,
BBS,
2.
HARmonitor,
Okay, now?
and CERT4 Biobased.
No, we can
This
we can hear
tool
it, but we
helps
cannot
ensure
see
that
it.
certification
See you.
systems are robust,
You're unfortunately not
effective,
sharing your
and
screen.
aligned with
Well,
EU
Yes, I know, somehow I
sustainability
can do both.
goals.
I cannot share the screen and share
The
the
tool
somehow.
operates across 3 levels. System level,
Yes, here.
assessing governance and operational
Wait,
robustness.
Try again. Now?
Now we can see the screen, but we cannot hear it.
Okay, the last time.
Seems to be a little bit jinxed.
Okay, the last time we try, otherwise. Okay, here.
And otherwise, I suggest that you put the YouTube link into
Yeah,
the chat.
Link in the chat. I'm sorry for this. Yes,
No problem.
this one.
Yeah, shall we do that?
I'm sorry. Yes.
That's okay. It's
Somehow.
always like that.
I'll put the link in the chat. I'm really sorry. So you can.
No worries.
Yes.
We can put the link in the chat, and we can also put the link to the BMT tool itself in the chat, so that
yes.
our
Sorry.
audience can also test
Somehow,
it out themselves.
when we tried before it worked, and now it's not working. I'm really sorry. Okay, here's the link to the video.
Perfect. So apologies for that, but thank you very much again, Luana, for jumping in last minute and replacing Philippe. That was very much appreciated. And I would also now like to open up the floor. We have a couple of minutes left, about 8 minutes, to answer questions to our 3 speakers. I already saw one, I think, comment in the chat about the possibility of adding AI features such as smart robo or auto chat or voice interaction. Laura, maybe can you comment a little bit on that, on the further development on the app, and whether including AI features may be something to add in the future?
Not exactly what was commented, but we were looking actually at how to use ChatGPT, for example, for the scan part, because one of the challenges we faced during the project was collecting photos and images to train the AI to understand the labels. Even for the ones who actually will now download the app, you might see that it is quite limited and it recognizes few labels, not all the labels. So it's a tedious job actually to train the AI algorithm to understand or recognize all the labels. And we are looking on how to integrate ChatGPT, for example, or even Google search with image. We're probably consumers can scan the photo and then ChatGPT understands the photo and tells them what the label is, or even Google search. But it would be nice. Yeah, I mean, it's almost the same thing as integrating this to just understand the logo, or even if consumers want to talk with the app through ChatGPT or any other. Definitely, it's out of scope for us to come up with another LLM to enable consumers to talk about specifically about labels. But we believe there are lots of other developments outside the project that hopefully in a point we can benefit from.
Very good. Thank you, Laura. I can also see a hand raised from Maurice Ernst from the audience. Please, Maurice, unmute yourself and ask your question.
No, sorry, this was actually by mistake.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
So I guess no question for Maurice. Then maybe a few comments or questions also from my side to the audience. So maybe Margot, you saw the presentations from Loa, but also from Luana. You mentioned that communicating to the end consumer is one of the biggest challenges, with the 5 pillars being really important to be addressed. Couldn't you communicate reflect a little bit more on how certification schemes and labels in general are able to communicate to end consumers, and perhaps also how these 2 tools that were presented by Loa and by Luana may help in actually overcoming the barriers to communication?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of work that Leibniz can do in terms of communication. In our research, what we noticed is that websites, for example, can vary very, very much. Some are quite technical and some are really consumer friendly. There's also labels that have the resources to do big communication campaigns in the metro and things like this, and that they don't just inform about what the label does, but also on sustainability issues. I think that was the case of the Blue Angel, and probably because they're they're almost a public institution, so they also have this role, public service there. But yeah, I think there's a balance that needs to be struck. You can't write everything on a product, and so having usually a good practice is, which I think something is going to become mandatory, is to have at least a link to your website or a QR code. And so that's a bit what our app is doing, is that with a QR code, you immediately access short descriptions right in the shop, or if you're shopping online, like right on the website. And so either this can be done by an application that aggregates information about all the labels, but obviously it can be difficult to have updated information. So already if the labels are providing this about themselves, they're the best place to talk about themselves. That is very, very helpful. And then any independent project that can give us more information, help us compare schemes, is very important. But obviously this is extremely resource intensive. We've noticed the difference between our own project and the projects by Luana, where the timeline was different, the number of partners was different, the resources was different, and so they could really do an in-depth assessment, and that was very insightful.
Yeah, very good. Maybe then one question on to both Luana and to Loa. I think the challenges also in developing these tools are tremendous. It takes a lot of resource to develop them. It also takes a lot of tools and resources to maintain them. So maybe to Loa, how do you see the future collaboration? How do you see the business model? How to keep this up running and growing after the project?
Yeah, I completely actually agree with Margot that we need a lot of resources, even not about, I mean, I just mentioned the challenge, for example, about the scanning and the amount of time and resources we need actually to compile images to train the AI algorithm. But moreover to this one, actually, these labels, they change their logos and they update their logos. And then we have to also chase them whenever they update, the logo or description or anything about the label. And that's also time consuming. And we are not, I mean, if they do not communicate it directly to us, we might not be even sometimes aware that something has been changed. And I would say also that most labels are mainly focused B2B. To be honest, not all of them they take into consideration actually the consumer or the person who will see the logo at the end on the product. And sometimes they might forget actually a normal consumer, even when Margaret says it comes to Blue Angel, for example, a normal consumer might not know what this blue logo or label means on a product, right? So I would really actually encourage the certification schemes to think about consumers, the end users, not just the businesses who will use them, and of course pay to them. But when it comes to our business model for the app, it is for free for consumers, so consumers can use it for now for free. But we are hoping that we build more collaborations with brands and shops who would like to increase the awareness of their consumers. Now we are looking or trying to knock the doors of lots of big brands such as Veritas here in Spain, who have got lots of eco products, organic products. And if they wish to, for example, customize the app to make it their own way of communicating to consumers. That's one way to go, and make sure that the app is used and reused in the future. We are hoping that it will be always for free for consumers, but hopefully the businesses are willing to invest a little bit more in it.
Very clear. Thank you, Loa. And maybe the same question to Luana. The BMT, of course, was a tool more developed business to business, but also to you. How do you see the strategy to the need of regular updates and maintenance, and also the uptake of the BMT by the schemes themselves?
Yeah. So thank you, Martin. So of course, now the project ended, the free project are not there anymore. So what we did is this web-based tool as a way to keep it alive and to have as a self-assessment, because as you know, we need a lot of experts to conduct the assessment. So we said, okay, maybe we can offer a self-assessment tool. So we really hope that there is like an increase of the usage by the schemes owners about this tool. And maybe we also hope that the scheme owner will give us the feedback of the assessment, because we asked them in the assessment if they are willing to give us the access to the results, also not maybe open, but like not open and say which scheme is that, but then we can use this to still look at the average of the scheme and improve the indicators in a way. So we're really hoping to have this. We're also looking for other opportunity to find other projects, maybe to finance full the development of the tool. And we hope that maybe other calls in the future will support us, because otherwise, with the time, nobody will use it, unfortunately. And this one is something that we are concerned with this. So we really have to find funding to further improve the tools.
Thank you very much, Loa, and Luana, also to Margot, to all speakers. Unfortunately, we are already at the end of the very first session. I would have loved to ask you more questions, but if you have more questions to the speakers, they will still be online. So please also put them in the chat or contact them directly. We would encourage all users to also play around with the tools, give us some feedback. Again, the 3CO project will be running also a few more months, so that would be highly appreciated. Unfortunately, we have to end the session here. We talked a lot about technical innovation, about apps and tools, but there's also social innovation. So I'm very happy to introduce my colleague from BTG, also in the Netherlands, John Vos, to lead the next session on social innovation. Over to John.
Thank you, Martin. Indeed, my name is John Vos. I'm the work package leader for the work on social innovation, and I'm happy to be your host for the second session. One of the sessions, actually two of the sessions, in two of the presentations in the first session were about tools, and one of those tools was actually a 3CO app, and an app is actually a kind of a social innovation. And what we did in this work package that I had the pleasure of leading is assessing the potential as well as some best practice examples of social innovation in more detail. And on this topic, we have three speakers today that each have 15 minutes to talk about their findings. One is Saritza, one is Florian, and one is Noemi. I will introduce them a bit longer later on. In this session, we will only touch briefly upon policy matters, and I would like to inform you already now that the next session, session number 3, is fully dedicated to policy. Before I hand over to the next speaker, the first speaker, let me inform you on the definition of social innovation that we applied in the 3CO project. To us, social innovations are new ideas that are products, services, and models that simultaneously meet social needs, and they do that more effectively than alternatives, that create new social relationships or collaborations, and that foster sustainable consumption patterns. And this link with sustainable consumption patterns is of course, what is the overall goal of 3CO. Now, let's hand over to our first speaker. And our first speaker is Dr. Saritza Kirosiwa from the Ecologic Institute in Germany. Saritza works as a senior fellow in the field of bioeconomy, and she coordinates the European research activities at Ecologic Institute. Her research focuses on the potential of the bioeconomy to drive regional development and to promote the sustainable use of resources. Saritza, I'm happy to hand over to you, and please tell us about your findings.
Thanks, John. Good morning, everyone. Before I share my screen, maybe also a few words about where I come from, Ecologic Institute. We are a private institute for environmental policy and policy analysis, and we cover basically the whole spectrum of environmentally related topics. So bioeconomy is one of them. I'm here with my colleague Holger Gerdes. He's in the audience, and I'll present our work. So let me first share my screen and see if this works. Does it work?
It does.
Okay, so you see my full screen. Okay, so first it might look a bit disattached from the project, but it's not, because social innovation is actually all about supporting sustainable choices and supporting sustainable consumption and production, what we've heard in the first session. So we analyzed a number of social innovation initiatives across Europe, but also beyond, and they covered different types of social innovation. We had like mattress recycling, toys reuse, clothing reuse, which is also very widespread. We had like apps, digital apps, as John said, for waste separation. And yeah, they all have to do with sustainable consumption and production. So we talked with the people who initiated these social initiatives, and we together identified some common challenges. And based on these insights, we also drafted policy recommendations that we then discussed with experts and validated them. And now I'm going to quickly present this policy recommendation, how to support more social innovation initiatives across Europe. So first, before I start with the policy recommendation, I would like to give a short overview of what's going on in terms of policy frameworks and funding frameworks at European level, because it's already something out there. So social innovation is, for example, recognized by the European Green Deal, by the European Bioeconomy Strategy from 2018, by the Circular Economy Action Plan. We also have the Social Economy Action Plan from 2021. So they all emphasize the need of social innovation and the role of social innovation for a more sustainable future, for behavioral changes. And also some national strategies, for example, in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Finland. We also have Spain and Portugal that address social innovation either through dedicated social innovation strategies or through different circular economy programs, or also dedicated funding instruments. As for the funding landscape in Europe, Horizon Europe is probably one of the most important funding instruments covering social innovation through the European Innovation Ecosystems Program, but also through Cluster 2, that is dedicated on society, on inclusive society, and social innovation is also included in different clusters as a cross-cutting issue. Then we have the European Social Fund Plus, that is really focusing on supporting social innovation, skill development, more inclusive rural development. There were some unpleasant developments recently, that it was cut from the future European budget, but now it's back. But still the future of the European Social Fund Plus, it's not very clear at the moment. And we have the LEADER program, which is also very prominent when it comes to the support of community-based bottom-up approaches for more inclusive regional development. So this is a bit about the policy and the funding framework. Now, as I said, we conducted interviews with the social innovation practitioners, and we identified 3 main clusters of challenges, like financial, regulatory, and some barriers connected to collaboration and networking. There is a lack of funding. This is an issue. And at the same time, there is high dependence on public funds, which also may create some challenges, because when a certain funding program is stopped, then there is no chance for many initiatives to initiate follow-up project or to continue with their activities. In addition, we also had the challenge that social innovation is quite difficult to be monetized, and this makes it also difficult to attract more investments, more private investment, but also from the public when it comes, for example, to crowdfunding initiatives. Regulatory frameworks were also seen as not very flexible, not considering sector-specific conditions, and not tailored to the need, especially of the non-profit organizations. With regard to collaboration and networking barriers, there is lack of awareness and recognition of social innovation as a real business, and limited awareness about their goal, which make harder, as I said, to gain institutional support, but also public support. So based on these challenges, we developed our recommendations with the goal to address the challenges. Okay. So our policy recommendations are also clustered in three main clusters. The one is on funding and regulatory support. So first, we need more accessible EU funding, simplified application processes. The application processes are right now very, very complicated. The eligibility criteria are also very strict, and there is a need of simplification, more clear rules, more dedicated programs addressing social innovation and different topics or parts of social innovation like loneliness, inclusion, sustainability, and advisory services can also support here. I think that here we are on the right way because currently a revision of the Horizon Europe program is in place, and reducing administrative burdens, for example, is one of the main aim of this revision. Then what we came across is that regional development in some cases play a very important role in some regions, and they should be equipped with more financial and more personal resources so that they are able to support bottom-up initiatives, because social innovation, they always start from the very local level, and this is where they need the first place the support. Tax incentives for social innovation practices and social enterprises can also provide support. For example, policies that encourage more eco-friendly and socially beneficial practices. We have this in many countries, but could be also widely distributed. Another measure that could be undertaken is to encourage private sector engagement in social innovation. I have here as example the social impact bonds. They're quite old instrument, and this is the case when a private investor invests money in a project with social outcomes, for example, creating new employment for disabled people. And if the project is successful, then the government pays back. But if not, then there is no refunding. So this is a quite risky business, and probably that's why not as popular as it should be. Another recommendation could be to support certification costs and offer guidance programs for the application for certification, because this is very difficult, and many social innovation practitioners complain that these costs are very, very high for small entities, and they cannot afford it. Then we have some recommendations for more structural and strategic measures. For example, to prioritize public procurement that favors social enterprises, to formulate more legal requirements for fair and sustainable public procurement. So Margot mentioned in her presentation that, for example, human rights are also considered in the certification, but they are very, very basic. So more focus on this. There was the need to improve regulatory standards regarding greenwashing and value chain transparency. So here, the first thing is the Green Claim Directive, which is also very uncertain in terms of further development. There is a need to reduce the regulatory burdens and to streamline the administrative reporting tasks when it comes for certification. Here's one very obvious: to ensure policy stability, what we all need, but it's very important for small entities to have more stability, and that this funding is a bit more disconnected from political shifts and more sustainable. And here the last recommendation from this cluster is to that funding decisions should be based on clear impact criteria, on clear social impact criteria. And this would help a lot for social enterprises also to succeed in grant processes. So monitoring frameworks with clear social impact criteria. And the last cluster is focused on strengthening collaboration and public awareness. So public education and outreach should promote and could promote the understanding of the social innovation benefits, could improve acceptance of the social enterprises, and also support broader society inclusion and support. I mention again the crowdfunding as a tool to support social innovation because it's also widely used. Then we need structural funding that boosts networking and resource sharing among social sector actors and support this knowledge exchange. And I'm very happy that Florian will introduce this in his presentation and touch upon the issue of how to support knowledge exchange and how to connect social innovation and provide this platform for them for exchange. Yeah, and always when we talk about policy recommendation, we also need to specify what are the opportunities in the current policy process and how our policy recommendation can fit into it. And we are lucky to have quite a few windows of opportunity for our recommendations. Maybe first to start with the strategic plan for the upcoming Research and Innovation Framework Program. This is the FP10 and the successor of the current Horizon Europe. So currently the work on the strategic plan started. The program as such will start in 2028, but it's now the right moment to come in with our recommendations. So the new program can secure more dedicated funding for social innovation, especially within the key thematic clusters of Horizon Europe. I think that they will be more or less kept in the upcoming program, so we can have more dedicated topics on social innovation, not just having social innovation as a cross-cutting aspect, but also to make it mandatory to address the aspect of social innovation. Then we have the country-specific recommendations from the European semester that need to be integrated in national legislation, as well as the implementation of the corporate sustainability due diligence directive. So that should be also integrated into national legislation. And here we have a window of opportunity to support social innovation for more national funding streams. And last but not least, then probably the most important for our project is the current review of the European bioeconomy strategy. So SRICO is running under the heading of bioeconomy. We are dealing with bio-based value chains. So the bioeconomy is actually the right policy for us. And currently it's reviewed and we should have the final strategy by the end of 2025. And there was also an open consultation initiated by the European Commission. And we provided input. So we provided basically our policy recommendations as written input to the consultation. And looking at how it looks right now, that it will have 4 pillars. We believe that the most important pillars for social innovation are Pillar 2 on increasing resource efficient and circular use of biological resources, and Pillar 3 on securing an affordable and sustainable supply of biomass. So there are a lot of examples how these pillars can be supported by social innovation, and at the same time the strategy should also ensure that there are actions that support social innovation. For example, community-led cooperatives that promote circular use of biological resources and more resource-efficient practices, but also more support for primary producer and networks that create local value chains using local biological resources. And if you have a look at our brochure with social innovation, you will see that many of these examples that we've collected respond exactly to the 2 pillars of the future strategy. And by doing this, I mean, one of the main goals of the European Commission is to support rural development, regional development, and to increase the resilience of local communities. And here the social innovation has a lot of potential to contribute. And with this, I think that I'm ready without looking at the hour. I guess that I was a bit quicker than I was supposed to be, but this will leave us more time for the discussion, I guess. And I'll post the links. Sorry, John.
Go ahead.
I will post the link to the policy paper in the chat and also to the brochure with the fact sheets with the social innovation examples.
Thank you, Sarissa, for this nice overview and for shedding some light on the developments that are going on and where there is potential for social innovation to take advantage of them. This is a nice overview of the European situation. Now we're going to zoom in a little bit more on one specific country, being Germany. And Florian Bulk will guide us through that. To give you, Florian is from the Platform for Social Innovations and Social Enterprises, and he's a project lead for social impact. His work spans a decade of projects on social innovation and social entrepreneurship, with a focus on regional development within the EU as well as ecosystem development. Since 2022, he leads the implementation of the digital platform for social innovation and social enterprises in Germany, and his remarks address the importance of grassroots ecosystem development and the role of public policy to scale social innovations. And I'm happy now to hand over to Florian. Florian, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, John. Just 1 second. So I think now everyone can see the presentation. That is correct, John, right?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. And thank you, Sarissa, for this very interesting overview on what you found of what social innovators need within Europe. I will also touch upon our work, which is the digital platform for social innovation and social enterprises. I want to start off with what Sarissa also mentioned, our strategy and the political framework conditions that are basically the foundation of also our work as well. I will take you a bit more on a meta level, and I want to talk to you about this picture in particular and what this picture means in the context also of the German social innovation system. This is a picture from almost exactly 2 years ago, and the launch of the strategy for social innovation and social enterprises in Germany. This was considered a huge milestone because previously we have been more a niche topic, and this strategy wanted to push social innovation on par, on a level playing field with technological innovations. So that's quite a big step. And of course, years of hard work, convincing awareness work have been going into this. But almost 2 years ago, we've been there, and the strategy was quite a remarkable step. It contained 70 measures to improve the conditions for social enterprises, free up millions of euros for startup and scale-up support programs. And of course, it also launched our work. I will touch upon it later, but what we do is basically we provide a digital information and exchange platform for social innovators, social enterprises, but also funding partners, etc. To address, I think previously one talked about a label jungle, and what we have is more or less than a support program jungle as well, and we want to bring more transparency in that. But as I said, I will touch upon that a bit later. So the strategy basically was a success. As I said, 70 measures. The government as well issued a monitoring report half a year ago. So after 1.5 years, 80% of all the measures that were in the original strategy were implemented. And of course, there were some that were not implemented yet, but it also has to do with the shift in government in Germany in the beginning of the year. So now some of the 70 measures would have happened anyways. There were plans to do some of them anyways, and they spanned topics from support programs, supporting research on the topic, and also increasing visibility of social innovations in Germany. However, it was still the case that many measures were coming in just for the reason of this strategy, and it's quite remarkable. And it has to do, as a lot of times, with also people and political interests. And you see here, this is the state secretary for the former Ministry for Economic Affairs. And this is the Commissioner for Social Innovation in Germany, the former commissioner. So we actually had, for the first time, a commissioner for social innovation. And these two people particularly pushed social innovation and the strategy to a large degree. And they pushed it also in the federal government. And without them, it would not have been possible. So this is the first learning, of course, to have strong political leaders that push for this topic and to make things actually happen. And how important it was, you can see that especially Sven Giegold on the left side was the state secretary for the Ministry for Economic Affairs. He checked every week our website and checked what is on there and if the latest updates were already on there. And for a social innovation project like ours, this is, in Germany at least, unheard of. And maybe you can relate to that this level of, I would say, political surveillance of our work was very special and was a great opportunity for us as well. In general, we can also say that the last years were more or less the heyday for political social innovation support. In Hamburg, the city committed to a social entrepreneurship city Hamburg, and they committed also that public authorities and the agencies act more impact-oriented. In Saxony, they created also a digital innovation platform and actually put in millions of euros for multi-year commitment in supporting social innovations in the state of Saxony. And then you have us. We are acting on the federal level. And as I said, we provide information on all the different programs that are in there, but we also try to raise awareness for the importance of social innovation and social enterprises for Germany, for the economy, but also for society. And this is even more important when you consider how many programs there are now. 15 years ago, the situation looked more like this. There was not much to speak of an ecosystem for social innovations, right? But now, 2024, it looked like this. And there you can see that we have an abundance of actors and programs that are worthwhile communicating to whoever needs support in coaching, funding, or visibility. And this is basically what we also do with our work. And what we see now, however, is that the heyday has slowed down. I forgot one thing, that of course it is even more important to make these offers transparent, because there was one study last year issued, no, it was this year actually, issued numbers on the size of our sector. And you can see here that, for instance, when you're looking at the revenue, which is approximately 80 billion euros, this is 3 to 4 times more than the automotive industry in Germany. So there is a lot of leverage and a lot of importance in the work of social innovation actors in Germany. Now, as I said, unfortunately, music stopped a little bit or slowed down after re-election in particular. Our topics are not so much on vogue anymore and are not so important anymore. There are other important topics that take away also resources from what we do, basically. And last week, we've held, from our platform for social innovation, we've had a conference, and our managing director from Social Impact, Norbert Kunz, put it together like this. We cannot rely anymore on the help of others. Now more than ever, we must come together. And this directly relates to the fact that money and support and resources are more and more leaving our work, our sector, and leaves us with quite a lot of problems as well. And so Ritza also mentioned it, that funding is always a big problem, but now it's even more a big problem. And this is something that it's quite striking as well. And the reasons for this are quite obvious sometimes. So Germany is in a recession as well, so there's less tax money to be spent. We have the issue of arming our military, more attention is going to internal and external security. technology, and especially AI or biochemistry, etc., are much more important for policies than it used to be, which is also interesting because the topic of social innovation has particularly been pushed by the EU after 2008 and 9, where they realized, that the way we run our economies is not sustainable. We need to look into other forms of innovation to make them sustainable. And so they put up the Social Innovation Initiative and supported for the last 15 years social innovations to be much more stronger supported, and also pushed that in the national governments as well. Now, as Suritza also mentioned, at the moment, the ESF, which is a super important program for social innovations in Europe, has been put on hold. Now they say social innovations or ESF is back on track, but we don't know how it's going. But sorry. But so we are seeing that our topic is at the moment more on it's not as strong as it should be, particularly when we look at how important it still is. We see I'm sorry. We see that global risks are less economic, but very much environmental and societal. And this is the World Economic Forum that says that, as well as we see still we have more societal problems and not less. And so social innovations should, of course, play a bigger role. And that's why our work, of course, is important to bring together the programs that are there for social innovators in Germany. But we also face problems. Our funding is running out, and we see we need to be much more efficient in our resources and to work together with the digital platforms that other counties like Hamburg and Saxony put up. And we need to be much more efficient here. So an advice would here be, if digital platforms are implemented, to not do it separately, but to have a concerted effort in implementing this architecture, because then you have real impact, and this could be this could actually then live up to its potential. Thank you, and I hope I was also in time.
I think you were perfectly in time, Florian, and thanks for giving this overview. And yeah, it gives us a bleak picture the way you ended your presentation. Although the very last sentence, your very last comment was that a concerted action is needed, and I think that's where we have some perspective. That's why the way we should go to make sure that social innovation is not moving away from the radar, because as you pointed out, it remains a very important topic. With a view on the clock, I suggest that we continue now to go and move on to our third speaker, which is Noemi De Santis. She will present a best practice social innovation from Italy. As an introduction, Noemi De Santis is one of the founders of Juncker, the Italian smartphone app for recycling. She has an extensive background in public relations and digital communications, both for organizations and companies, and she currently serves as the communications and public relations manager exclusively for Juncker. And I'm happy now to hand over to Noemi. So Noemi, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, John. I'm very happy to be here and tell you about our social impact. I will share my presentation. Let me know if you can see it. I think so. Yes, I'll try to switch on presentation mode. Is okay for everyone?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So I will, we are born as a digital startup, and we work with the public administration in Italy. So we are a case of good collaboration between public and private. I'm thinking of what Sorisa said, the importance of to encourage private sector. And we are just in this case, Zorica, we are just the example of what you said. I will tell you how we we are having social impact in Italy, starting for our goal for an economic and environmental impact. We were looking for the environmental and economic one, and we got also the social impact. Follow me, I will show you. But before, I must give you a little bit of context of Italy. Italy is, in a short word, a nation set on recycling, is wide renowned. We are mad about recycling. Everybody is recycling, from the president of Italy until the until tourists, and we are trying to create a virtuous circle in Italy where people knows how to recycle. So municipalities get a lot of good recycled materials that they resell, and this is a circular, a virtuous circular economy system. If does not work, we have problem because people gets fined. Because if we are not good recycle, we get and we pay fines. Municipalities have much more costs because they have to send to incineration or landfill if fractions are badly recycled and there are impurities. And but the problem is that the EU is putting fines on our government if we don't close our incinerators and landfills. So you see, the virtuous circle becomes a very bad, vicious circle. So what is our contribution? With Juncker, we tried to give a solution, and we proved to be a solution because we accelerate the learning curve of Italians in learning how to recycle and contribute to start the good virtuous circle I was telling you before. So what does Juncker do? Juncker recognizes any kind of waste from packaging or products just by scanning the barcode, taking a picture. We have a very powerful AI-powered tool that recognizes products and packaging from a photo that you take through the app, and we give back geolocated information on how to sort any kind of waste where you live, where you are now, with the local rules. This is very important because if you give the bad suggestion, the bad information, of course, you give people a liability because they risk to make mistakes in recycling and vicious circle, I was saying. We have also text search, maps, and so on. In 10 years' time of our activity, we created in Juncker a good information tutor, also gamification, quiz, surveys, direct messages from your municipalities. So in order to give any kind of information, a citizen, a tourist, a foreign worker needs to make a good recycle in Italy. And then we added services because, you know, environmental activity are many and very complicated. You have to go to, you have to register if you have, for example, a self-composter. If you have a composting machine in your garden, you have to book. If you have bulky waste, you have to book the pickup of it. So you have many things to know, and we try to make a direct access to these services in Juncker. So information services, because our goal is to empower citizens and to make a win-win system for everybody. So our business model is that municipalities subscribe to Juncker. That's the cooperation, private, public, I was telling you before. They subscribe for Juncker, and the benefits are for everyone, because Juncker is added with the local information coming from the municipalities, plus the information on how to recognize waste that we provide. So everybody is happy. Citizens, no mistakes, no fines. Waste disposal company, better fraction. Municipalities, better revenues, of course. And we give also a digital label. We were talking about digital labels. The same information we can give them through a QR code to the producers. We have many clients that produce goods, wines, anything that take our QR code, put them on the packaging to help consumers, clients to recognize how to recycle. If you try to read this QR code I put, you can see what you obtain. You can change nation, you can change city, and you will have information on how to recycle. Where everything I told you is leading me to tell you that we have a recognized widespread economic and environmental impact. But most of all, for what concerns our meeting today, we also help people. We increase circularity, encouraging reuse, repair, and donation, and green choices. We have this goal to empower consumer choices through our digital solution and reshape public perception. For example, in this moment, we are working a lot about reuse, because in Italy, reuse was not perceived as a positive thing. It was something for poor people. And now we are trying to change the impression that reuse is good for environment. In this way, making permanent campaigns to Juncker plus the information tool, we have a social impact. We are a collaborative platform. We empower citizens. We make them do more conscious choices before buying, for example, products, because they can evaluate the circularity, the recycling of the materials of the packaging. And we, of course, encourage a better dialogue with the municipalities and help them achieve results faster and easier. I will close telling you that we are in 12 languages to take away the barriers on the complicated language of waste recycling, and we also are accessible for visually impaired people. We do not want to have barriers in the knowledge of people and the empowerment of people. I will finish my speech with the numbers. We had, in the last 10 years of activity, more than 84 million app searches for how to recycle a product in the app. It means that for 84 million times somebody learned how to recycle correctly something, and we reach a population of 30 million people, because there are more than 3,500 Italian municipalities and Italian Switzerland that subscribe the services. So this is a virtuous example of a collaboration between private and encourage private initiative and public administration that worked very well, and it's helping in Italy municipalities to meet EU targets on waste easier and faster. And that's the end. If you want to try Juncker, you can download from the Google and App Store. And thank you very, very much for having me. I was happy to relate about our Juncker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Noemi, for this quick overview. You kept it very brief and short. I mean, I found your app so much interesting that you could talk for a whole hour about it.
Ask me. I will answer.
Yeah, well,
I am always
I
afraid.
I do have a question. I kept an eye on the chat box, and most of the questions are of a very practical nature. One, for example, is the mentioning that the policy paper that we developed within 3Co is available on the 3Co website. And also another item that was developed in 3Co is a nice poster with hidden products. It's a poster meant for kids and youth, and they can look on the poster and find the hidden bio-based products and the social innovations. The links will be provided to you with the information on this webinar, on this conference. The question from Agnese is, could you please send the link for both the iOS and the Android for Juncker? I think that is in your presentation, so we will make sure to do that.
I will put in the chat. Thank you.
I have here a question from the audience to Noemi, to you. It's a very interesting app and presentation. What would you say are the biggest barriers in marketing this to consumers?
I will be frank. Our biggest barriers were not on the consumer's part. On the opposite, the consumer discovered our application, and there was a huge viral word-to-mouth dissemination. We had many cases in which citizens went to their municipalities, the mayor, the public servant on the environmental sector in their municipalities, asking to adopt Junker because it was useful and because you download one app and you have many services, many information, whatever you need. But the barriers were from the public part. We were not funded. We grew, how do you say, in a sustainable way. First investing with our time, our money, and then there were the municipalities that encouraged and paid the subscription in order to have the application. But we did not have help, you know, John, because we talked a long time about that from the national entities. We did not have encouragement from investors because they judged Junker a risky business because it was our business model was about working with public administration, which is unreliable in Italy and in debt. You know, we were born to help public administration, and for this reason we were unreliable. But by chance it was the municipalities that agreed to jump on our network that saved the project and adopted the project and made us grow. So that were the some of them. Sorica, you put them in your slide, some of the barriers, and they encourage. One was the necessity to encourage private sector, support certification, because now we are ISO certified, but it was very expensive. So we could do this now, not at the beginning, of course. And another important barrier that should drop is the encourage of regional agencies, because it was a regional agencies the first that believed in our project and made us make the first steps. So they are, Zorica, they were very centered, and I really agree with you.
Okay, thank you for Nori for that. Well, we don't have to go in the long story that all the steps that you went through from the very first day that the spark of setting up Junker, which was about 10 years ago. What I would like you to do, Florian left us with a little bit of a bleak picture how things were developing in Germany now with the new government being in place and being so many other been moving a little bit away from social innovations. But in your case, I understand that there is quite some international interest in Junker and that you're actually a growing business. Is that correct?
Yes, really, it's correct. And thanks to the new image recognition feature that we put in the app, we are able now to recognize instantly also foreign products without the need of someone physically classificate it manually. So we are ready to jump abroad to classify any kind of packaging waste or product in other countries. Our QR code for digital labeling are available also for Italian producers that sell abroad. So we are extending our reach and looking outside Italy to grow because in Europe we are under the same framework, law framework. So we are compliant to the, of course, we are ready to be compliant everywhere, not just in Italy, but all around Europe. We had some interest also from United States because they are looking at Europe and looking at how much we did in a few years, not Junker, but the Europe, and we were contacted by them. So we will see.
Okay, yeah, we will see. Well, at least that looks a little bit better. Let me see. Are there any questions from the audience? Did I miss any of your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A?
I mean, Florian and I would like to say something.
Sure, let's go ahead.
I mean, I had like 2 questions to Naomi, but she answered this already. I wanted to learn more about this collaboration with public and private bodies, but I could hand over to Florian if he can share some experiences from Germany, because this is something that I did not came across so much private investments in such kind of social innovation initiatives and projects. If you know something.
Yeah, thank you, Zorica, and thanks, John, for getting back to the situation that we face here. Obviously, it's not only government, but it's a general mindset shift, which you maybe also experience. In Germany, we do see that topics for sustainability also among consumers are in slight decline, which of course then also put those of us who work then more on offering services to consumers in a disadvantage, and then government basically follows that general mindset and mind shift as well. That is also true, Sarita, for the private sector funding towards social impact projects. We have seen a decline towards social innovation projects from private sector, from philanthropy in the last, I would say, 5 years. Has to do with the recession, has to do with mindset shift, but has also to do with other topics that might be much more interesting to invest in as well, which is also something that we want to work on more and more now, because the solutions that social innovations provide, or they are catering towards the problems that also, for instance, the private sector face or that the public sector faces, right? Integration of labor, because in Germany we have a big problem of lack of qualified labor, actually. This is one topic. The other topic for public administration is more impact-oriented measures and policies, especially in times when there's not so much funding, then to have money being channeled much more towards impact, and that there's more bang for the buck, if you want to say so, is also much more important. So our topics are still highly relevant, but we need to more remind people on all sides on that.
Okay, if I may jump on that, Florian, what may be the key aspects for the German ecosystem development that may prove very important for the future?
I think some of them I've touched upon, right? I mean, the relevance, I think what we are having to do now much more than it maybe was like 5 to 10 years ago is to address much more the topics that are relevant to those that are now spending their money and are now looking for solutions to the problems that they see. And this is something that we now try to do more and more. So we try to address, as I said, topics of integration, topics of labor market, topics of also innovation, because technical innovations will not succeed if the social factor is not being counted in. And this is particularly important when we now are in an age where technical innovations are even more prevalent. And so this is one aspect that we see there's quite a big, actually also leverage for our work. And the other thing is that we look, and that's also the quote from Norbert Kunz, our managing director, touches upon, that we need to look to be more efficient amongst ourselves and to work together much closer and build alliances cross-sectoral, to work together with public authorities, to work together with private companies, to find common ground on some topics and then create projects from that. So we need to be more open to other actors, and this is something that is also gaining more traction now in our community.
Yeah, what I hear you saying, Florian, is that you yourself have to become also more innovative your approach.
Always,
Yeah.
John.
Yeah. Okay. Sarissa, did you have another question, or Florian, did you have a question, or Noemi?
No.
Not really. Okay, then maybe as a final question to you, Sarissa, because I didn't address you yet. The upcoming bioeconomy strategy, you said it will be forthcoming this quarter. Can you shed a bit of light how we can focus more on social innovation, or maybe reiterate what you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, as I said, actually, when you look at our fact sheets, they have a lot examples also with bioeconomy. For example, we had one private pharma initiative producing what was the name now? Can someone help me? Stroheim out of what is the word in English?
I think it's a straw.
So it's just a straw from thanks from biological residues, and this is a perfect example. And this is also framed as a bio-based value chain. So there are a lot more examples how this social innovation can contribute to the bioeconomy. And as I said, there are 4 pillars planned. I don't know if they will end up in the strategy, but the pillar on the sustainable biomass and on resource efficiency are clearly responding to social innovation and the other way around. And when, Staramaki is the example, thanks Laura. And when we look at that, so what now the policymakers in DG Environment, because I think that they're responsible for the strategy, can do is by developing the action plan, they could consider social innovation and kind of foresee more support, more dedicated support for such initiatives in the action plan.
Yeah, and what is the status of this strategy? Is it's planned to be available in this quarter, but are there already early versions or presentations that are being circulated? Because you refer to 2 pillars.
Yeah, not really officially. There is one on the website of DG Environment with the 4 pillars, for example, but not much official information. I was in a conference where a representative from DG Environment just presented what are the plans for the strategy. And as far as I know, it will be published by the end of 2025. But I don't know if this will really happen. Sometimes there are some unexpected delays at the Commission side. But it will be soon.
Okay. All right. Then thanks everybody for your inputs. I thought there were some nice presentations that maybe looked a little bit from a distance to the issues in earlier webinars that we organized in the frame of 3CO. We dive much more into the details, and I think at a final conference, you also want to look a bit more ahead. So thanks again to you, Noemi, to you, Florian, and to you, Sarissa. And I'd like to give back to Dušica, and I think we are 2 minutes ahead of time. So I think that's a nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you, John.
I think with this, we can let everyone go to a short coffee break and see you back at 11:30 for the next session on policy. All speakers are already here and ready to give their presentations. Thank you so much, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start again after the break. So I will be your moderator for the session 3 on policy. My name is Luciano Proto Casinas. I work at the nova-Institut at the Department of Economy and Policy. And just as a very brief recap of what we have seen in the previous 2 sessions. So in session 1, labels and certification, we've seen how certifications and labeling can increase consumer trust in bio-based products. And we were also presented with 2 digital tools that help consumers and certifications users to make more informed decisions. And in session 2, we discussed about social innovation and how this can support consumers. Confused. So yeah, how can this? Sorry, I'm a little bit confused here. Something's going on. Yeah, so how social innovations also help consumers in understanding the certifications and labels. And but we have also heard that policy support and some, let's say, policy intentionality has shifted a little bit due to the current geopolitical environment. And this is a really good statement to start our next session on policy. And we will see in this session the current policy framework, some existing instruments, and the results that TRICO obtained with regards to policies. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Is Margot, is she online? Hope
Yes,
so.
I'm here.
Okay, perfect. So our first speaker is Margot Legalou. Sorry for my French. You may remember her for the very first presentations that we had, but I will introduce her again just in case you missed those first two sessions. So she's the program manager for environmental information and assessment at ECOS. She works to improve standards and legislation on green claims, greenwashing, digital product passports, and life cycle assessments. Before joining ECOS, she worked on policies to support eco-innovation and the circular economy. She holds 2 degrees, a master's in international affairs and political sciences, and a master's in economics. Margot, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen so that you can also see my presentation. Voilà. I hope you see it as you should. Can you confirm maybe?
For now, we don't see anything.
We cannot.
So I'm not sharing the screen yet.
Not sharing it. Now it looks.
Voilà.
Now it is.
There it is, and I go full screen. Voila. Is it okay?
That's perfect. Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, so I will be presenting you the policy recommendation of the TRICO project. I just want to say as a word of caution, we're still working on them. So this will be our very first draft. We're very pleased to present them to you, and we hope to get also a little bit of feedback to help us finalize them in the coming months. So first of all, why does this matter? Thing is that in the TRICO project, we looked a lot at what labels do, how they work, how they help consumer. We looked at consumer research, but here's the thing: the labels do not happen in a vacuum. They happen within an ecosystem of legislations that kind of curtail what they do, whether they are regulating what labels can do directly or regulating what companies can do in producing products or what kind of policy objectives they may be. And this matters a lot, and we need regulation because we have to address a number of problems, which I put on the slide. The first one, an obvious one, is the fact that we're still very much a fossil-based economy, resulting in climate change, resource depletion, and biodiversity loss. Second one is that bio-based products are presented as part of the solution, but it's not because something is made with natural resources that is inherently sustainable. And so we also need regulations to ensure that that's the case and that we're not increasing resource depletion. And finally, as we've seen already in the previous sessions, consumers face confusion and mistrust from having too many weak labels. And that's what makes the policy landscape very, very important. So we asked ourselves this question: how can the EU build a coherent policy framework to guide sustainable choices? So I'm trying to get back my presentation mode. Right. So I can change the slide. And so what have we done in TRICO? We've looked at about 20 European policies, so really looking at the European levels, and we tried to map the landscape in which labels operate. We looked at methodologies, legal requirements, criteria, targets, and things like this. And the idea was to assess the results, especially of the European Green Deal, and identify inconsistencies in legislation when they exist, and also remaining policy gap to look at the future and what could be done. We've covered regulations on bio-based feedstocks, regulation on products, regulation on claims and vital transparency, and these form the basis for today's draft recommendations. So first of all, a little bit on our analysis. So what we can say is that the EU Green Deal has delivered. We've seen in our panel, basically you have 13 revisions and 7 new laws. That's a lot of things that have been done in the past 5-6 years, especially the previous commission. A lot of the laws were actually already existing before, but they've seen major changing. For example, you had the EU timber regulation that has been totally changed into the EU deforestation-free products regulation. The Renewable Energy Directive has seen 2 updates since 2018. So still focusing a lot on bioenergy, but now more and more on bio-based products. You have a lot of new laws, such as the Single-Use Plastic Directive. A lot of things have been updated, like the Eco-Design, the Eco-Design Directive turned into the ESPR. Packaging and packaging waste regulation is also an update of an existing law. So voilà, you have a lot of diversity in terms of legislation, really addressing the whole landscape of bio-based product. You also have laws that are looking more at reporting and due diligence, such as the Corporate Sustainability Regulation and the CSDDD and the EU taxonomy. So voilà, there's quite a diversity. There's been a lot of law that have been done. Now, where do we actually stand once we've seen all of these improvements? So definitely we have stronger sustainability baseline than what we had before, but we still see a number of gaps. We have fragmented frameworks across sectors. So you have lots of laws that are done at a sectoral level, whether it's construction product, packaging waste, single-use plastics, textiles. And so they're not necessarily all very well aligned. Sometimes definitions can change. You also see that there is, at the moment, quite weak rules when it comes to labeling schemes, which is really the focus of our project. The Green Claims Directive is still very much in the work, and as I've listed it below in deregulation risks, we don't know if we're going to have a Green Claims Directive to this point, where the negotiations have restarted among member states, but we really do not know if this law is going to see the light of day. You also have other laws like the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive and the Regulation on Deforestation-Free Products that are a bit up in the air with the simplification agenda. So we don't know if what we're going to keep. And like we've voted a lot of laws, but they still need to be implemented. So we still need to really keep the pressure on policymakers to deliver all of this. And finally, one point which I think is extremely important is that all of these laws have looked at how to improve the production process of product, but they haven't really looked into the volumes of production. And at the moment, especially for products that are made of natural resources, we simply cannot increase the volumes of products, and we should very much decrease them, because otherwise we're not going to solve the problem of resource depletion, of biodiversity collapse, or climate change. So there's still a lot to be done. There are a few opportunities that we have listed. So these are really like just the legal opportunities that are on the working plan of the European Commission. More opportunities could be created in the future if there is policy demand for it. And that reminds us of the need to keep pressure on policymakers, especially in the current environment of deregulation. But the few opportunities we see in the next coming years, I have the bioeconomy strategy revision. We've mentioned it. It should come out before the end of this year. You're going to have the textile labeling revision. So the textile labeling directive, I believe, or regulation, I don't remember. But anyway, it will look at traceability and how to improve information and sustainability. So this will give pointers for labeling schemes that look at textiles. You also have the revision of the public procurement directives. That is expected to be done next year. And this one, well, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but we think there is a big chance for green public procurement to boost the demand for sustainable products. And finally, the delegated act of the ESPR, because a lot of the ESPR is actually going to be done through secondary legislation. So there's a lot of work to be done in specific sectors, specific product categories, and all of this is going to happen in the coming years. So what do we recommend? We have 3 main headlines. First of all, make sustainable products the norm. Then information must be available and harmonized. And finally, ensure consumer protection and empowerment. I'll go into detail now. So make sustainable products the norm. The thing is that buying sustainable products should not be a choice that we have to make. We've discussed about how consumers have a hard time learning everything they would have to know to actually make proper sustainable choices. And sometimes even when you're an expert, and I can tell that from my own experience, we don't have the time, we still don't know. The information is too complicated. So regulators have a big role to play in pushing out of the market the most polluting products. Then the role for labels will be to help us really choose the best options, but at least we need to make sure that the worst products are out of the market. Second of all, from a systemic level, we need to tackle overproduction. As I've said, you can make the most sustainable bio-based product, but if there is too much of it, you're not solving the problem. We already have insufficient resources to replace all the fossil-based products with bio-based alternatives. This is especially the case in textiles. We're just producing way too much clothes. A lot of them are never sold, never worn. So besides addressing the product level, you really need to address the systemic level of overproduction. On the product level, we strongly support the implementation of the eco-design regulations. So as I've said, lots of secondary legislation is going to come in. There is an expectation to put criteria on the circularity and eco-design of products. And this is going to take many, many years. And what we recommend is to speed up this timeline. Sometimes it can take up to 10 years to get a product regulated. So we really call the Commission to be quite ambitious in their working plan. And finally, green public procurement. We need to boost public, but also big buyers' demand for sustainable product, because this can help shift markets and prices and support R&D. If you have sufficient budgets, you can fund your R&D, and then you can produce more sustainable products, and especially more sustainable chemicals, more sustainable dyes and things like this. And there's still a lot of research to be done there to really replace the materials and the products that we have that are not sustainable. So we should really use the opportunity of this revision of the public procurement directives to encourage the choice of sustainable products. At the moment, the directives still make it easier for procurers to ask for the cheapest bid, basically. You just go with the cheapest price. You don't go with the most sustainable option. It can be a bit hard for public procurers to set criteria for sustainability over just price. So we hope that this can change. All right, in our second part, so harmonized and accessible information. This is obviously very much linked to our work on labels, not so much on sustainable products, but certain laws have methods and clear definitions, but they may not be aligned. For example, the REDS directive, the Renewable Energy Directive, has sustainability certification frameworks that differ from the construction products regulation reliance on vital products declaration. So it's two very different systems to label products. And with improved alignment, certification schemes will be able to provide coherent sustainability information across markets. We also think that there could be a better use of digitalization and interoperable databases. There's something that's already a bit in the dynamic, but we confirm that this can really have potential. At the moment, we have different databases for information on product conformity, chemical safety, and eco-design requirements. A lot of information is still paper-based, and some of it is not accessible, certainly not to consumers, but also sometimes not accessible to surveillance authorities, which creates a big problem of conformity. We think that digital product passports, centralized digital platforms, and other automated data collection tools can make reporting faster, easier, and more reliable for companies, labeling schemes, and public authorities. And finally, there's something that's a bit of a hot topic at the moment, is the use of chain of custody models. They are used a lot to ensure that we track sustainability characteristics in products along the value chain as materials go through lots of transformation. There are many models available, and while there's a lot of standardization happening in this field at the moment, it's still very much a bit of a jungle. And what we think is that the model that companies choose or that labeling schemes choose should not reduce data availability. We see a big risk with models such as credit mass balance or book and claim or vital attribute certificates. These methods allow sustainability attributes to be allocated to outputs without physically tracking material flows. So you're trading a certificate, not the material itself. And in the absence of common rule, this can dilute the sustainability data, because at the end of the line, the downstream producers or the consumers and with the product that claims to have sustainability characteristics that have indeed been produced somewhere, unless there have been issues, which can happen very often, but also just it's regardless of even if there has been no issue, the material is not the one that has been certified. It just got the certificate of it. And so there, especially for consumers, this can be a big problem, because this is not something you can explain to them and expect them to be happy with it. And that's why consumer authorities are starting to say you need to disclose that there is no link between the certificate and the actual product in the hand of the consumer. So I think that there is a need of regulation, not just standardization. And finally, on consumer protection, we need to use mandatory labeling. So here I'm going to make a distinction. What we talked about in 3CO are voluntary labeling that companies can choose to add to their product. But you also have things like mandatory labeling, such as classes of performance under the Eco-Design Directive, the energy efficiency labeling that we're all very familiar with. These can be very useful to phase out polluting products. Think about A, B, C, D classes of performance. Typically, the last class is often, if a product falls into the last class, it's not allowed to be sold on the market. The other effect is that consumers are going to be drawn towards the A's. Middle letters, not so much effect, but top letters, very useful to shift the market. We also need to have rules on labeling schemes with no exemptions. So here, that was something that was a big hope with the Green Claims Directive, that it would set rules across sectors and across products on labeling schemes. And that's why we think this law really needs to be voted, to have a basic set of harmonized rules. Then you can add sectoral or legislation-specific you can add sectoral-specific rules to really adapt to the specific kind of products, specific sectors, but they should not deviate from the basic set. There should not be a way to circumvent it, which is something that could have been a loophole in the Green Claims Directive, and may still be. And finally, we need to have harmonized communication rules for bio-based products. That's also something the Green Claims Directive could have done through delegated acts. And finally, we need to really, first, most polluting products, so that's something I haven't mentioned yet, but the regulations such as the Green Claims Directive are telling you how to make green claims, but they're not saying that certain products should not make green claims at all, which means that you can be a fossil fuel company and make a green claim on your product. You can say that a fossil fuel made virgin plastic bottle has some green credential, and maybe that should be regulated and that should be prevented to really tell consumers this product can never be sustainable, so don't allow them to make green claims on it. And that also can help shift consumer behavior. And finally, you need well-funded enforcement. This is a problem at the moment that a lot of the enforcement falls on consumer authorities, and that certain member states are facing budgetary cuts, which may impede consumer authorities from doing their work. They already have to go through so many products. They already making lots of choices, sometimes going with very high penalty, but catching very few fish. Lots of things there, but it would be very important for the European Commission to stress the importance of funding this and to prevent budgetary cuts in this sector. So to summarize and finish my presentation, our call to policymakers is to really make sustainability the default baseline. They need to strengthen harmonization and digitalization. They need to ensure that labeling schemes add value, not confusion. They need to protect consumers, and finally push for sufficiency. This is really something that needs to be done in this new mandate because it was not done in the previous one. Finally, we think that a coherent, ambitious EU policy framework can build consumer trust, drive sustainable business models, and support the bioeconomy as a real climate solution. Thank you very much. I will end my presentation here, and I'm happy to get questions on this.
Thank you very much, Marco. I think due to some time issues, we will move just right ahead with Kai Sega. It's my pleasure to present him. He's a colleague of mine. So he's part of the nova-Institut Economy and Policy Department. He works mostly on regulatory topics around the circular economy, renewable carbon, and carbon removals. He has over 12 years of experience in strategic policy consulting, the communication industry, and broad knowledge of climate and sustainability issues. And his main responsibilities within the 3CO project were the development of practical label design guidelines for effective consumer communication through bio-based products and labels. The floor is yours, guys.
Thank you very much, Luciano. Also, thank you very much, Margot. We have been working on the same work package, so a lot of what I'm gonna be talking about now is related to what Margot has already presented in her first two contributions. I hope that you can see my screen. Luciano, if you could briefly confirm. Yes, perfect.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Excellent. So I'm going to be presenting some of our label design guidelines, some of the work we've done in 3CO. It's a bit of a stretch to relate it exclusively to policy, so please bear with me. My introduction will be more on the topics of the guidelines, on the issues and things it covers, and then I will try to take a turn and also touch upon some more recent policy developments and issues that we believe are relevant to be included in such guidelines. First of all, I'm representing Nova today, the nova-Institut. We are also like Ecologic, a private research institute. We have about 50 international scientists and experts working on everything related to the circular economy and renewable carbon, of which biogenic carbon and bio-based products are one aspect. We have been involved in the 3CO project mainly through two departments. One is our communications department. Our colleague Dushica is here today. So events like this are part of the work along with some others. So most of the presentations and the results that you can see, we have published a few of them. They were associated with our communications department. And then we also engaged through our economy and policy group, which is where Luciano and I are working. And among our more general work on policy, we also provide some consulting advice on standard certification and labels. So this is how we came to be in charge of the label design guidelines. You've heard a lot about 3CO already. So the main thing is consumer communication through labeling. We heard a lot about influencing consumers also through eco-labels and digital solutions. This has been part of the first session. And one of the main deliverables we are still working on, it's due end of this year, so it will probably be available early next year in its final form, is to develop a set of guidelines, design guidelines for labeling and certification scheme holders. To be clear what that actually entails and means, the goal was to create a fully comprehensive set of guidelines. Fully comprehensive, I always like those ones. Targeted mainly at label scheme owners, but also at public authorities and industry designers, that should be implementable in existing schemes. So it's not something that we have come up with for new schemes, but it should always be able to be implemented in existing ones that enable the switch to environmentally responsible behavior. We heard a lot about this as well. So enabling consumers to make more environmental and sustainable purchasing decisions and increase understanding. In the end, to improve the deployment of business to consumers communication. We also heard about the need for transparency in conveying information. So this is all something that should be enabled through these guidelines. So labels can provide, or label scheme owners can provide better labels that address all these issues, ultimately to improve decision-making for consumers and improve sustainability performance and competitiveness of bio-based systems. So two main goals, two overarching goals. One is consumer decisions, and second is sustainability performance for bio-based products and systems. Quite ambitious. So this is what we have in there, based on some of the challenges that we identified that come along with labels. So first of all, we put a strong focus on visual label design guidance. We already heard from Loha when developing the digital tools. Logos and labels change a lot. Machine readability is an issue, but also coherence and general like content, everything that is related to a label, which is the visual representation of a scheme, has to be considered. So a lot of what is in those guidelines, obviously they are also called label design guidelines, is on visual aspects. We included major elements on communication as well, mainly because if you want to really have not just a B2C, so a consumer-facing label that consumers can see, which is on product, but also one that explicitly addresses consumers, there are some differences to what label scheme owners may be used from their B2B interactions. And a lot of this has to do with communication and how you operate and run your communication efforts. So this is also a major point in those guidelines. And then we have included some aspects on the operational parts, like claim development, just to make it more applicable and based on real-world experience. Then all of the guidance is based on 3 research on the parts that we already heard about, labels and consumer perspective, and also social innovation. But why do consumers actually matter if you want to have a consumer-facing label? Well, obviously, consumers are your main target group. We have taken 3 pillars to go forward. One is that consumers have a perception. So Margot already mentioned this. Bio-based products are not inherently sustainable or more sustainable than conventional products, but consumers do carry a belief that this is the case. So if you name something bio-based, most consumers will attribute or will think of it that the product does have some attributes that are associated with nature, such as biodegradability, non-toxicity, and a generally positive impact on the environment and biodiversity, which may not always be the case, but it's a perception that consumers have and that should not be contradicted through labeling. Then economics is the most obvious reason why consumers matter. Consumers are your purchasers. So they are the market in and of itself. So they create market demand for bio-based products. So obviously they are important. And then the last part is really environmental performance. Because of their inherent beliefs that bio-based is more sustainable, consumers require a broad environmental sustainability coverage of a label. That's really at the heart of the scheme and its communication. So if you want to convince consumers to buy bio-based, you should definitely emphasize the environmental and sustainability benefits of such products. But of course, there are specific challenges that come along with bio-based labels, especially when you look at consumer-facing ones. One is that indeed bio-based products are not inherently sustainable, while at the same time consumers expect those benefits. So bridging this gap is a major challenge if you consider a consumer-facing label. Then once you're there, B2C labels, consumer-facing labels, rely a lot more on short-term interaction. So it's really at the point of sale, you look at the packaging, you see the label, you make a purchase decision. You don't read all the information regarding sustainability aspects between seeing the label and taking a purchasing decision. So this may come later, it may come earlier, but the main interaction between consumers and a label is short and at the point of sale. Then we already know that a lot of consumers lack awareness and knowledge about what bio-based is, also what sustainability is, but with bio-based it gets even more complicated. So there's not always a sufficient amount of awareness that if you just label your product bio-based, that this will influence a purchasing decision. You heard about the proliferation of labels, a lot of schemes out there, varying coverage. Some are single issue, some are more comprehensive, but none of them are really clear. So consumers may be confused of what constitutes sustainability related to a label. Another very important and not widely recognized issue is that when you go into consumer communication, trust on the label relies a lot also on the brand that is being labeled. Margot, you brought up the example of a fossil fuel company that might make some claims on sustainability on a fossil-based product, which can be true, and the same can be true vice versa. So if you are a sustainability labeling scheme and you certify a company, a brand that is known for unsustainable practices, this may not sway consumers to buy such products, and this may not transfer a positive image that is related to a labeling scheme towards an unsustainable company, but rather the other way around, that issues that may be associated with a company, negative issues, can also be transferred to a label, undermining trust and credibility of such a scheme. Then two more, we are almost there. Consumers are a highly diversified group. So it's not that you have the consumer, but you have different segments, a plethora of different segments with different interests, needs, and requirements. Some may go for a more sustainable perspective, for a more social perspective of sustainability. Some are very eco-conscious. Some are just performance, interested in performance. So you have a wide variety of people you have to talk to, which all require dedicated messaging. So this is an additional effort that may not be on the radar of many schemes when they just transfer an existing B2B scheme to the B2C sphere. And then the last one, which is our main topic for this session, is that we have a very dynamic regulatory landscape. And there are some unclear priorities where this is going. So for scheme owners, this can be difficult to include and accommodate for in their labels. Then there are a lot of differences. Some of this is reoccurring. We already heard in business to business, bio-based product labeling is quite established, while in business to consumers, there are only a few. There are some that are consumer facing, which consumers can actually see on packaging, but there are actually none that are really directly addressing consumers. I mentioned the difference in relationship. So consumer labels rely on short-term interaction, while we already heard that when you are in a B2B setting, a business-to-business setting, schemes can sometimes even cooperate with products, with brands for longer-term relationships, positively influencing also sustainability performance over time. This is much harder to achieve in the consumer space, which also relates to the communication dimension. One is more a business-to-business communication. Obviously, this is more internal stuff, while consumer communication requires classical marketing and outreach. Also related to language, you can have very nuanced technical exchange when you work in a business-to-business environment, but consumers require rather simple messaging at first. Behind, of course, you also need a lot of explanation, so you need to dive deeper into the sustainability aspects. But at the point of sale on the label, you need to have concise, simple messaging claiming this is sustainable, yes or no. And while in business to business, you don't really require a label, claims can be sufficient. With consumers, you must have this. You must think about branding. So you must have a label, whether you have your own or you integrate into an existing eco label, but a label, a visual logo representation is required. I mentioned that trust in B2B is on the scheme, on a label scheme owner, while in business to consumer, it's much more also on the certified brand. In B2B, you can have single issue labeling, for instance, on biodegradability of bio-based products, while consumers require and expect a more holistic sustainability view. And the last and probably most important differences is that for businesses, a label is often a means to either gain market access or show compliance with or adherence to certain quality criteria, often related to sustainability, while a consumer label is a sales tool. You want to guide a consumer to purchase your product. This is what your label is for in this case. So a lot of stuff that you need to consider if you come up with a B2C label, and we hope our guidelines can help you. These are some of the issues that we explain in more detail and where we provide some guidance on how to evaluate those and implement them in a scheme. Of course, we also thought, yes.
Okay, sorry, just if you can round up in the next minute or so, would be fantastic. Thank you.
Almost there. So 3 trends that we have included in the guidelines, not as specific policies, but as general things to consider. Some of this is rather new. One is that we definitely do see a growing momentum for including demand side actions. So a growing momentum for quotas and minimum content requirements, like in the packaging and plastics waste directive, also in the end of life vehicles directive. Most of it still is on recycled content, but we do see some momentum on bio-based, as we have seen in our recent conference, the Renewable Materials Conference in Siegburg, where this was confirmed again by the Commission that this is something they're looking into. We do see a clear trend towards harmonizing sustainability criteria. Margot, this is also something you mentioned. You called for it. We see this happening to some degrees across policies for sourcing feedstocks, but also for using material and energy applications. And then one interesting thing, of course, that we are really looking into is the implementation of the digital product passport and the extended producer responsibility, as this may have some serious implications for how you set up a label and even how you design your logo and the information you need to project. And then this is largely a leftover that we still have in the guidelines. We assumed the Green Claims Directive would be in force once we finalize our guidelines. Now we have to assume that it will probably not be there, but still there are some really important elements that the GCD had that we still included that we think a scheme owner should consider and keep. Of course, the substantiation of claims, this is something that most schemes do diligently, but still is something that we should have, even though it may not be a legal requirement. Same goes for third-party verification and robustness that is ensured through transparency. And an important one that we really focus on in our guidelines as well is to reduce label proliferation. So we explain a lot on why you should consider carefully if you actually come up with a new label, if you want to introduce a new consumer-facing label to the market or not. As if you want to have a consumer label that's also, again, single issue, this might only create confusion and be contradicting the cause to actually improve sustainability performance and lead to better, more sustainable purchasing decisions. With that, I think my time has run out. More than that, and I will conclude and give the floor to the next speaker. Thank you for your attention.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kai, for your insightful presentation. Let's just directly jump to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Yanis Kougoulis. He's a policy officer in bioeconomy in the European Commission in the internal market industry, entrepreneurship and small and medium enterprises Directorate General. He has worked for the EU in various roles, including environmental policy and science. From 2010 to 2019, he worked in circular economy, sustainability, eco-design, and eco-labeling of products. And later, he implemented the Horizon Europe program in areas like bioeconomy and the environment, and health and the environment. He's a chemist with a master's degree in environmental management and a PhD in sustainability engineering. Then, Yanis, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for all the previous speakers. It's very good work presented and very interesting discussions and very inspiring ones. And congratulations for the 3CO project, also for the very good efforts and the valuable deliverables that you have already produced, and for the, of course, for the deliverables that will come. My presentation, I will try to keep it for the interest of time short to allow some time for discussion. My presentation is about the importance of certification for bio-based products in EU policy. And just for the introduction, I'm representing the DG GROW, the unit working on bioeconomy. So why bio-based products? Bio-based products can help us to defossilize. They can help us to meet climate neutrality targets, and also they support us to reach EU autonomy and security. So these are three different elements that make the bio-based products and the policies on bioeconomy relevant, and especially in the current dynamics of the political dynamics with from different fronts. we think that the fossilization is important and autonomy, EU autonomy is very important, as well as the climate crisis that we are already experiencing. So
yeah,
from the yes.
Sorry, just interruption. We see your presentation with some blue boxes. Wanted to confirm with you that this is intentional.
No. Shall I make the presentation
Okay.
only? I can.
Yes, there seem to be some pop-up elements blocking parts of it.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think that you have some
yes.
other windows open,
I
and
do it
because
like
it's
that. Is it better?
Oh no,
no,
now everything
now it's worse.
disappeared.
Now?
No,
Is it
there
better?
seem to be some. Now it's gone. I think we should proceed like this.
Yes, let's proceed like this.
Okay, now I'm presenting only the PowerPoint. Before it was my screen, that's why. Okay, sorry for that. So you see this slide now? Just confirm me.
Yes, we see the main parts of the slide. There are still some elements
Yes.
blocked, but we can see the text.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. I don't know why the format is not supported. So here on the left side, we have the main elements. So it's just an overview of presentation of, and it's a little bit in the time horizon. In February 2024, we had the communication on boosting biotechnology and biomanufacturing, where we are now a number of aspects implementing. While later, we have the new commission, we have the new mandate, and we have an announcement, and we are working on a series of policy developments and initiatives, including the life sciences strategy that was published in June 2025, the bioeconomy strategy that will be published in the next month, and the two items on circular economy act and biotech act that are also strongly related to the bioeconomy strategy and the bio-based products, supporting bio-based products. So this is just a slide about the exciting times that we are living in. And being more precise on regarding the communication, most important elements for our discussion are that it is a knowledge that we need to stimulate the market demand. So the Commission will explore how biomanufactured non-food products could provide themselves better through labeling and bio-based products. The Commission will also is committed to review the product environmental footprint methodology in order to allow a better accounting of the biogenic carbon in products and to better model it. And also we have, of course, continuous support on elaborating and updating standards. And now, regarding the new bioeconomy strategy, as this will be released and published in less than 1 month, I will not be. I will keep it very short, just presenting some important early elements that we are working on. The first one is the scaling up of innovations from lab to deployment. The second one is to the lead markets, create lead markets for bio-based products and technologies. The third one is the aspects on sustainably sourcing and resilience of biomass supply. And then we have the international cooperation to share the European bioeconomy vision globally and the governance of bioeconomy. The aspects of labeling and certification of bio-based products are partially under the area of scaling up and of innovations, as there we are referring to creating the enabling conditions to allow us to create standards, to accelerate and stimulate the work on standards and stimulate the market for products, for new innovation, new innovative products. And there we come to the second point where we will speak about lead markets, about aspects how we can create and stimulate demand and guide also consumers. So in these slides, I try to bring all together the key points why certification of bio-based products is important in EU policy. It is important because when we have a certification and label of products, this makes it easier, the verification. For example, when we are discussing about percentages of bio-based material content in products, about verifying the sustainable sourcing of the bio feedstock, and when we have environmental information, or for instance, the environmental footprint of products. So the verification is relevant in cases when we have in legislation, for instance, minimum bio-based targets, or if we have it can support also the public and private procurers of bio-based lead market products. So this is the part where the labeling and certification has a very important role in order to operationalize any political and policy decision, or in order to boost and create the market demand, so that the products can be verified and can be easily recognized. Regarding now the standardization, I just had these slides in order to present the different standards that are ongoing, or the working groups on the standards that are finishing, with mainly the bio-based TC 411 working group. And now I would like to present a few studies that we are working on. One study is about the standards under the AISMEA call and the Single Market Program. We have launched the study, a grant agreement with the Swedish Standards Institute. It's called Stand for Bio. It started in June 2025, and they will work on the mapping of existing standards and on the feasibility study for new standards, and also on supporting the EN 15804. All this work will be done in approximately 3 years, and will deliver also information on how we can further prioritize and identify needs for new mandates and complement existing standards. And another study that is ongoing and is about to be finished is conducted by IDEA Consult, nova-Institut, and Prognos. It is about supporting the green transition via EU industrial strategy, opportunities and challenges for bioeconomy through industrial bio-based systems and biotechnology in the EU. And here, this study started in last year in autumn, and will be finished in before the end of the year. And it looks on 4 tasks in which we try to analyze key bio-based industrial systems and business models to identify success and big applications of industrial biorefineries and industrial bioeconomy supply chains, to map them, to understand which are the products that are producing, which are the feedstocks that are using. In task 2 and task 3, we see an overview on the legislative impact of biomass availability and use. And we collect data on imports, on exports, and dependencies, and have also a projection of 2030. And in task 4, we should see the future. We see what is in the pipeline, and we make an assessment on the opportunities and challenges of biotechnology and biomanufacturing in the EU, and what are the new trends in the area. Just to connect this study, here in task 1, we identify also the importance of labeling and the certification in the success story and where it is applied, and how the business models of the companies are working.
Yanis, I will interrupt you just for a second. Kai has a question. Yes, or probably, yeah, go ahead, Kai.
No, sorry, this was accidental.
Okay, yeah, but I will take this interruption also to let you know about the time that we have 8 minutes left for questions. Yeah, thank you.
It's my last slide, so it's very
okay.
good.
Perfect, thank you. Fantastic.
In the next slide, and the last one is about a new study that will launch, we start in the next month. And it is about this implementation of an action which was in the communication of biotech and biomanufacturing of 2024. And there we will analyze the feasibility and the impacts of different policy options in order to stimulate the market demand for bio-based products. And this includes both target setting, but also voluntary interventions, and possibly also public procurement intervention, policy interventions in public procurement. So this study will look on the market, will have a classification, we understand we need information on the products that we are talking about the supply chain, a popular analysis, intervention logic, assessment on impacts on economical, environmental, social aspects. And for this, very relevant is to see and to understand the virgin versus alternative feedstocks uses, the feasibility of setting targets, on which level is it possible, intermediate, on end product level. And here again, it is very important, the presence of certification of standards and labeling schemes if we are talking about consumer products. And maybe with that, I can open the floor, stop my presentation, and open the floor for discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Yanis. Thank you very much, all the speakers. We are very short on time, so I will ask you 2 or 3 questions, depending on how long the answers are. I think one question that can be addressed, maybe perhaps together by Yanis and Margot, is regarding the need for businesses to substantiate and add a sustainability label in their products, and this means that they have to incur an extra cost. And wouldn't it be maybe fair if we look from the other perspective for products that are not, let's say, sustainable in any regards, to pay a fine for not being sustainable? So this would somehow dilute a little bit the line between consumer preference for price points.
Should I respond, or I leave Ecos to respond?
No, maybe, yeah, if you have some feedback, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it is part of the actions that we are doing. It's not the direction that we do. We normally reward the good ones instead of punishing the bad ones. But yes, in the context of experiences, for instance, for tobacco, for alcohol, we have negative advertisement, let's put it that way. We didn't have these type of things in environmental aspects and in a broader sense also on bio-based content. But yes, it depends if there is a critical mass in consultations and where we see that there is a need to act in this direction, we can discuss it. But at the moment, it's not something that we are exploring.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think it's more friendly. Let's say friendly for the companies to have this bad advertising, bad images, instead of having incurring extra costs, to punish the bad ones. Yes, Margot, please go ahead.
I can add a little thing on this. What's interesting is that in the energy labeling, for example, at the moment, something that we expect to be replicated under the ESPR is that you have the classes of performance. It's mandatory. Everyone has to do it. So the cost is for everyone. But for those who get the worst letter, sometimes the worst letter means you can't even put your product on the market. And that's the best option. If it's really that bad, it should not be sold. But for everyone that is like the next letter, they're not banned from the market, but they have to display that they got a D or a G or something like this. And this is doing what Anchor is proposing there. So putting some shame on them. And I think that's a very useful tool. It only works when it's mandatory. And we do hope that this will be continued under the ESPR.
This is fantastic. Also a very nicer alternative, I would say. I have also another question regarding the Public Procurement Directive. So far, we have only seen the draft regarding solar and wind products. And then the question is for you, Margot, do you foresee this to be expanded in 2026? And do you foresee also differences at the regulatory level in different European countries? And do you see any barriers as well?
Yeah. So on this one, so yes, the ones on solar and wind are under the Net Zero Industry Act. What we know is that they could be more in the Industrial Decarbonization Accelerator Act. There could be some pilots for green public procurement on energy-intensive materials with CO2 requirements. And we're also expecting still the Circular Economy Act. And there we're also thinking maybe they're going to be some place for circularity procurement. When it comes to the public procurement directives, it's more about having a framework that is clear, that gives a legal mandate to member states to do green public procurement, and that is coherent with all these sectoral legislations that I've just mentioned. So there, yeah, we do see at the moment that there are differences at the national level whenever you have a directive. And so that's why the directive needs to be framed in a way to limit these and to make sure that any divergence between member states are there for good reasons and to not hamper the single markets. We see that, for example, in so regulation on claims, one of the idea behind the Green Claims Directive is that at the moment this is done at the national level, every country have different guidelines. As well, in France, you actually need to disclose what is exactly the bio-based source that you are using if you're claiming to have bio-based content. And that doesn't really exist in other countries, for example. And so the idea was to have a basic set, because then one claim that can be declared legal in one country could not be legal in another. And so that means you really need to rethink all your marketing materials. Voilà. So that's something that we see every time there's no regulation or whenever there's a directive. It's a possibility. Now, we did not look in depth into national implementations of EU regulations, so I can't say more.
Okay, yeah, no, that was very comprehensive. Thank you very much. And perhaps a final question for Kai. Regarding the guidelines, one question is regarding how would you ensure that a wider public, or how does the TRICO project actually envision that these guidelines reach a wider public and then they stay, let's say, relevant, if not, it's not the word, but that they don't get buried under all the information available?
So a few things. One is the guidelines have been developed together with scheme owners as well. So this is our main target group. So these are the people who should be reading those and then design their labels accordingly. So we are already in contact with them, also with the sister projects from the same Horizon call that actually looks at all the labeling requirements more into B2B context as well. So this is something that we hope will carry those guidelines a long way. We also developed them together with ICL, who has a large membership of scheme owners as well that can be distributed. We made sure that we don't have contradictions and not too many overlaps with all the other guidelines that are out there. And again, these guidelines are very specific for consumer-facing labels for bio-based products. So it's really a niche application that we see here. It's not a small application, but still it's niche in terms of sustainability labels. And we are very confident that we can reach most of providers of labels to consider those guidelines at least.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we reached the end of the policy session, 1 minute late. Then I will leave you in the hands of Mayra from ICL. Thank you very much, all the speakers. Thank you, Kai, Margot, and Yanis for your presentations. And yeah, let's move on to the next session.
Thank you so much, Luciano. Is Mayra here?
Hi.
Okay, perfect, and thank you.
Sorry, can I check if we're taking a couple of minutes break, or should we just dive right in?
No, there won't be any break. Please continue right away.
Okay, great. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. We're very excited about the program of sessions that we have put together today to share the outputs of this project. If you're only just joining us now, you have joined session 4 of this program. And I will start just by explaining a little bit about the 3CO project. The key objective of this project is to support sustainable consumption and improve consumer behavior through smart digital solutions and guidelines for labeling and certification scheme holders. We have done different types of activities to look into this from different angles. And in this session, we are presenting the work that we have done to understand the consumer perspective and why consumers behave the way they do with regard to bio-based products. We will start with a presentation from one of our project partners. This will be Agnieszka Wisniewska. I will introduce her in a minute, and then we will have 2 shorter presentations to present the voice of a consumer association and then the voice of a company. And then hopefully we'll have a bit of time for a bit of a panel discussion. So let's start with the first presentation. Agnieszka, can I see if you're online? There we go. Perfect. So let's start with the first presentation. Agnieszka, she's an assistant professor at the Faculty of Management at the University of Warsaw. She holds a PhD in economics in the discipline of management science. And Agnieszka, if I can ask you to share your screen so we can see your presentation. Perfect. Thank you. And if you can change that to presentation mode to make it a little bit bigger for the rest of us, that would be fantastic.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you confirm you can see my full screen presentation?
We can see your full screen. Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much. So over to you. I will mute myself and give you about 20 minutes for this presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayra. My presentation is about how consumers perceive bio-based products. So I will present some key findings from the 3CO project, which explores consumer attitudes, motivations, and barriers related to bio-based products and bio-based product purchasing. And the goal is was to understand what drives consumers' decisions in this area, and how we can support a transition toward more sustainable consumer behavior. And I just need to check how to change the slides now. Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, why look at consumers? So when discussing bio-based products, it is not only about production process, not only about technological innovations and bio-based innovations. Actually, everything starts on the consumer side. Because they are consumers are those who ultimately decide what to buy. So actually, producers and marketers adapt to consumers' preferences, to consumers' purchasing behavior. So that is why in the 3CO project we are focused also on consumer perspectives of their attitudes. And during my presentation, I will focus on first of all our framework, like golden rules for changing behavior. Then I will explain different way of thinking that we identified, and then drivers of green consumer behavior, and afterwards how these drivers translate into willingness to buy bio-based products. Yeah. So our assumption. To understand the influence, to understand how to influence consumer behavior, we took the framework of COM-B model, COM-B approach, which states that three things must come together in order to have the consumers specific behavior or the change in this behavior. And first, the capabilities. So people need to know what to do and how to do. So the knowledge is and skills is necessary. Then opportunities. So people must have the chance to access and to behave and the access to act in a specific way. And then motivation. So consumers need to feel the desire and drive to act. And if you would like to delve more in this framework, you can see the publication with this. And based on the COM-B framework, we designed our research in four consequent and complementary stages. So first we started with systematic literature review based on 199 scientific papers. Then we conducted a quantitative survey, computer-assisted web interviewing. Then, and the survey was in 10 countries. I will delve in a while. Then we conducted focus group discussion to deepen the quantitative findings. This was in 4 countries: Finland, Netherlands, Poland, and Spain. And afterwards, we conducted digital mock-up testing with interactive house-based platform. And if you would like to delve more in these findings after each of the stages, please scan the QR code, which directs you to the publicly available deliverables and our 3CO webpage.
Agnieszka, sorry to interrupt 2 seconds, but we have a comment in the chat about somebody who cannot see your screen. Could I ask somebody that is an attendee without a panelist link to let us know if you can see the screen, please? Just anybody, if you could unmute yourselves and let us know. Okay, Anke says that she can see the screen. Okay. Then, Dushika, I'll ask you please to maybe get in touch with Magdalena and see if we can do something to help her. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, Agnieszka. Please carry on.
Okay, so now let's focus a bit on our findings from systematic literature review. So first of all, to begin our research, we wanted to understand what really drives consumers to act in an environmentally friendly way. And since there is relatively few studies focusing specifically on bio-based products, we look at a broader perspective. So we analyzed, as I mentioned, 199 papers on green consumer purchasing behavior in general, not only bio-based, just to map factors that affect this behavior. And we try to map them within the framework of capabilities, opportunities, and motivation framework. And as you can see, there are lots of them. And if you would like to know more about what stays behind this methodology and behind these factors, you can see the QR code with the publication that has already been also available open access. But just to summarize it quickly, so we found out that for green consumer purchasing behavior, there is a lot of capabilities, but mostly psychological capabilities like environmental knowledge, eco-labels, understanding consumers' green self-identity, but also some physical capabilities like educational level or eco-literacy. There are also lots of physical opportunities which include product availability, information availability, eco-labels, and also social norms, green marketing, branding, lots of motivation, which includes attitude, trust, risk perception, price perception, and habitual behavior. And this leads to willingness to green purchasing behavior like paying more, seeking for information, purchase and repurchasing, and so on. And this was a very important step because based on our findings from the systematic literature review, we approached to design our quantitative method, and the purpose was to gain insight on consumer drivers and concerns regarding sustainability issues, willingness to buy bio-based products, and willingness to use labeling system, and it was among EU consumers. The sample was 3,000 respondents, 300 per each of the 10 countries, and the countries was Poland, Finland, Netherlands, Spain, Germany, Belgium, UK, Italy, France, and Denmark. And the questions were split into those that map the attitude towards sustainability, and the scale that we designed based on the literature review for COMBI framework. And first of all, what I would like to clarify is that we identify 3 segments. We use the scale actually of that measure the sustainability attitudes, the attitudes towards sustainability and the behavior, to map consumers among our respondents that are passive skeptics. I mean, they have they have negative attitude towards sustainability issues, so they don't care about these issues, and they don't behave in a green way. Then we would wanted to map active advocates that have green attitude, and this attitude translates into green behavior. And especially, we were very much interested in convenience seekers, so people that are that have green attitude, that are positive, that have positive attitude towards sustainability, but this attitude does not translate into green behavior. And this was because we wanted to see the difference, why there are some consumers that are not able to translate their positive attitude towards sustainability into adequate green behavior, like active advocates. So we wanted to map what is missing. So this was the key, and you can see the scale assumption in the QR code. And what found out? What is significantly missing among active advocates, and what is significantly missing among convenience seekers, this inconsistent segment, which has green attitude and no green behavior, and that is actually present in segment 3, the active advocates. And we found out that among capabilities, people that do not translate their attitude into green behavior are less aware about bio-based products, and they have lower knowledge about them. They don't recognize generally eco certificates. Then they don't understand this eco certificates, and then are not able to find them on product packaging. Then among opportunities, convenience seekers feel lower social influence, so they don't feel pressure from family, they don't feel pressure from peers, and then they don't feel support from social environment to behave sustainably and to buy bio-based products. They they also declare that then they don't see bio-based products in shops, so the perceived availability of bio-based products is lower, and they adequately don't see the messages. They don't see commercials of bio-based products, so that actually they are not aware where to look, how to identify bio-based products in the environment. And then with regard to motivations, actually they don't feel that they don't feel any personal benefits from buying bio-based products, and adequately they don't feel satisfied or bigger satisfaction from buying these products. And what is important, their behavior is not habitual. So buying bio-based products or even sustainable products is not something that constitutes their habits. So this is what is important conclusions. And with regard to their behavior toward certificates, we found out that active advocates pay attention to certificates, but actually it is not a common practice. So they behave sustainably, they look for sustainable products, they look for bio-based products even, but only part of them takes into account certificates. And passive skeptics and convenience seekers don't pay attention to the certificates at all. Then, after a quantitative study, we decided to organize focus groups to deepen the findings and to understand especially the confusion and what occurred. So first of all, most participants had heard the term bio-based, but they confused this term with food products. They confused this term with organic or biodegradable or just eco-friendly. So actually only after we explain what bio-based means, they express their positive attitude and their interest into purchasing this sort of product. So actually it shows a strong potential for education. So if only they knew what it is, it would be a bigger chance to convince them to use bio-based products. And what are other findings? First of all, our consumers informed us that they see too many labels and they are confused which of these labels and what these labels confirm, what these labels inform, and also whether they are somehow controlled. They also told us that they are open and willing to buy bio-based products, but they again confirmed what we found out in a quantitative study, that they don't see these products in shops. They are afraid that that prices will be higher, and also are not able to see certificates that confirm the bio-based character of the product. So this was the confusion that we found out. And after the final stage of our process, we did digital mock-up testing using interactive house space platform. And the key findings were that actually we provided digital solutions to our respondents to allow them to evaluate and express their perception, what works and what should be better. And all of them, actually most of them, mentioned that the app, the digital solution, should be in a native language version, so not English, but the native is preferred. And they highlighted the ease and the simplicity and clarity, visual clarity that help them and support them to use this sort of digital solution to support bio-based purchasing. But what is important for us, our respondents confirm that gamification increases engagement in sustainable behavior. So if they see some benefits, some tangible rewards, some scores, some badges, they have fun and they are more engaged and would be more willing to use this sort of a digital solution to map bio-based products. But what is also important for us, our respondents express limited willingness to pay for this sort of application that would support mapping bio-based products in shops. Okay, so hopefully I mentioned everything what should be. This is clear, but anyway, if you have any questions to me about different findings of all these stages, I'm happy to answer. So please contact me via email or on the chat. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you, Agnieszka. And so Agnieszka has summarized 3 years of work in 20 minutes. Thank you very much for that. Agnieszka, we have a question that maybe I'll take up right away. Somebody's asking about what are the deliverables related to this work that are publicly available. Is that something you could just clarify for us now?
So you are asking me for something?
Yeah, sorry, the deliverables, somebody's asking for what are the deliverables that
so
are
the
connected
deliverables are available on the web page, FICO. I will paste in chat the web page address, but also if the presentation will be available, the QR code links to this, but I will paste the link to these deliverables in a while to the chat, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And just to clarify that a lot of this work was really to give us the understanding on consumer perspective that then went to inform other areas of work. So we have, for example, the brand guidelines that Kai was just talking about, the design guidelines for how to use the logos, and that is guidance for certification schemes. And we also have the app that was developed and that was covered in session 1, I believe, today. So all participants will be shared copies of the presentations that are provided today, and you can find some more information about the specific activities there, as well as the corresponding deliverables on the website. All right, so without further ado, let's go to the next presentation.
Okay. The addresses for the deliverables is already on the chat.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So next we have Mariano Volta. He is responsible for EU affairs at the Italian NGO Cittadinanzattiva. I probably butchered that, I'm very sorry. And director of its EU branch called Active Citizenship Network. Over to you, Mariano, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Can I show my presentation?
We can see your screen. It's not on presentation mode.
No.
Oh, it's okay. And
I try
it's
again
also
because it was now.
Just 1 second, it's loading. Yes, now it's fine.
Perfect. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the kind invitation. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to bring the citizens and consumer perspective to this discussion. I'm Mariano Votta. I work for an NGO called Cittadinanzattiva, where I'm responsible for European affairs and director of our European branch called Active Citizenship Network. Cittadinanzattiva is a civic organization that for over 40 years has been committed to promoting the citizens' rights and the citizens' participation in the policy-making process, local, national, European level. In Italy, we are also recognized as consumer association, and I was appointed to represent in the past legislative period to represent the Teleconsumer Association in front of the DG Just and Consumer, the European Consumer Consultative Group, that a consultative body, one for each member state. So the title of my presentation, Empowering Consumers Behind the Labels, reflect both a challenge but also an ambition to move behind the surface level information, behind the labels and certification alone, and to build the missing pillars that can truly empower consumers. I talk about trust, health, and participation. This approach comes directly from our daily advocacy activity. Also because consumers today are not just looking for product to buy, they are looking for meaning, safety, involvement in the transaction, shaping their lives. Let me very brief present my organization, that is a cittadinanza attiva Italian-based civic organization, active since 1978. Through our European branch, we work across Europe. Our mission is to turn informed consumers into active citizens. We have been working on sustainability, citizens' rights for many years through European national projects, such as the EU-funded project Bioreser, where we engage citizens in validating certification system for bio-based products, sustainable nutrition in Italy, promoting civic and scientific education, responsible food choices, another Italian initiative like the Generazione Spread KO, focusing on sustainable lifestyle and waste reduction. What makes our approach unique is that we don't speak about citizens, we work with them, we transform information into understanding and understanding into engagement. In a world of growing complexity, citizens face an information overload, you know better than me. They are about bio-based, biodegradable, eco-friendly, but the differences are often not so much clear. Please correct this is wrong, but the 3CO project, my organization was not involved, so I have just to read the main finding, and I want to also congratulate for some document and brochure that I have the pleasure to read. This project has confirmed this confusion. In the 3CO consumer survey, nearly 70% of the responders say that had heard the term bio-based, but fewer than 20% could explain it in a very correct way. Similarly, the Eurobarometer on the circular economy show that only 29% of the Europeans feel confident identifying sustainable products.
Global Head of Marketing and Communications for Vala, and Vala is a medicines and cosmetics company based in Germany. Florian, are you with us? Let me check. Yes, fantastic.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Can you see my presentation?
We can see it, yes. Do you mind just let's just test it. Can you go to the next slide just to see if we can see it move?
Can you see it
Yeah.
move?
Perfect.
Okay.
It is
Perfect.
working. Thank you very much. Over to you then.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us as a brand perspective within the panel. It was quite interesting for me to listen today to all the different aspects you are working on. And in the end, we do this for the consumer, just as Mariana said. And this is our task, and I would give you an insight why we think that certification in a digital age matters. And I try to speed up so that we have a bit of time to have a little discussion at the end. So what is Dr. Hauschka? We are a sustainable brand. We are founded in 1967. And we look in all aspects of sustainability, and the seal of NATRU, our certification, is actually the public proof of what we are doing, and therefore this is very important for us. We cover all product types within cosmetics, coming from face care, body care, even a med care line, which is for dermatitis, and we have makeup products, and of course our signature treatments. So we are not working just on the surface, we are also working deeper. So it's also about health aspects across all life stages. We are distributed in over 50 countries all around the globe, and we will extend that in the future also. Why we commit to independent certification, and the most important word here is independent, because we think that certification should be independent to be authentic. Because we produce in our garden a lot of ingredients. We source our own seeds and we plant them in our greenhouses. We harvest and process everything with care, what we do to extract the essence out of those bio-based materials, like those plant ingredients we have. And we do this in a special rhythm and a special procedure we developed. In the end, it's going into production and we fill up the final product and offer it, of course, to our consumers. And that is our newest product, our long-lasting mascara. And we have a whole range that is done in the same way. So this really functions throughout our production procedure. And the independent certification of Natrue is a quality seal, as we see being rewarded for our efforts. What we do within our production, it supports what consumers looking for. They are looking for a proof point of what you are doing as a business, as a brand. So to stay true to your roots. And we had that earlier. I think Margot was mentioning it earlier, that is what people are looking for, an authentic communication. And the Natrue seal is supporting us in that way. It offers transparency and is an independent foundation following strict rules. And with this, having an external source or a second or third source that is proving our quality in the digital arena. It's authenticity and trust, as I said, because consumers seek that. And all what you've been showing us, Agnieszka, also what you found out, people looking for evidence and they want to rely on something safe, and that also needs to cater to their health. And it's really this seal, the signal that we are, as a brand, we commit ourselves to external proof of what we are doing. And when we come to the digital arena, people search on different ways and they find different proof points for you as a brand. And therefore, these digital imprints are very important for us. And how do we communicate it? We put it, of course, on our website, and we put our core message, 100% certified effective natural cosmetics, at the forefront. And then we put certain seals to it, the official ones, but also icons, let's say, that give a proof point. So it's you can access that via our website. But consumers are diverse and demanding. We heard this also throughout the day this morning, that people sort of need to find their spot where they source their product or their information. And for me, this is like a little bee going out there and looking for the nectar they are searching for. And once they found their spot, they share it with others. And that is the community aspect and the social aspect of certification or product reliability. The community in the end is deciding if you are a growing brand or not. And the consumer insights show that 92% of the consumers want to have not only a beauty approach that is coming from the outside, but also an inside-out approach, meaning that there's also a health aspect to it. Nutrition plays a role. So whatever you put to your body, that is important. And of course, global consumers think that you need to be joyful as a brand, and there's the aspect of gamification. So whatever is playful, joyful, which is rewarding, that helps you to grow. So an app that is offering a reward is a good approach in the first start. And your study showed, Agnieszka, that this is driving then interest, because you sort of get a playful approach to it. But also, on the other hand, 90% of the UK consumers think that within the cosmetics industry, there's a lot of misinformation. And that is the point, Mariano, you were addressing, and which is really important, that we find a public source that is supporting this information. Also for brands, this is important. And another point, very quick, this is a McKinsey study, So I just pointed out what is important for the consumers what is influencing their brand purchase. Of course, it's the product quality, but that is also something very personal. And once again, here's the aspect of pleasure to use and sort of also a joyful aspect in use of a product. So this is textures, scent, etc. for cosmetics products. And of course, it needs to be natural. And the natural aspect is quite low, actually, in the whole decision chain for cosmetics. But it's a proof point, and therefore we need the seal. And that is becoming even more important in the future, that until 2030, the digital e-commerce field will grow even broader, the market spaces will grow, AI shopping agents are coming on the market, ChatGPT just launched it, and you can now shop in search, and regulations are coming, and climate change is doing also its aspects to the table, and there are many more coming. So therefore, to offer orientation, and that's why I want to point it out, a seal is a good idea to have. To wrap it up, make it very brief. Whoops. For us, it's important to have a digital imprint, and so the consumer can really experience something about the brand and gain extra knowledge. And consumers seek ease and joy. They want to have low barriers. They want to have easy access to information. They want to have it playful, joyful, integrated in their daily lives. Certifications here can offer clarity and trust. And to be effective, all the certifications must be transparent. They should be independent and verifiable. Those self-made certifications or labels, I think, are a distress within the whole field. For us at Dr. Hauschka, this is really a commitment to integrity. We think it is a good idea to have an external proof point for whatever you do as a company, as a brand, and therefore it also offers trust in this age of digitalization and algorithms. Greetings from our garden.
Thank you very much, Florian. All right, so we've got about 8 minutes. So obviously we won't be able to go through all of the questions that we have prepared for you in this session, but maybe Florian, just starting with you and just picking up on what you just said. You talked a little bit about the value of certification for you. You talked about this big upward trend that we have on e-commerce and how you're using e-shopping and AI and all of this new online shopping experience that you mentioned. So I just wanted to explore that a little bit, like the value of certification in that realm of online shopping. What you mentioned some of the aspects already, like the fact that if consumers trust that label. You mentioned the importance of transparency. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like what does it mean for you? What is a transparent label, and what sort of information does it provide for the consumers?
I think the label should be offering insights, little videos, snippets like this. B2C communication Kai was touching upon. I think that is important, that you, as a label or as a certification scheme owner, you need to educate and proactively advocate for what the label stands for. And that could be gamified. This could be, you could make an imprint with all the social media you have at hand and create those little snippets that really help to get across in a comprehensive way what the label stands for and what's the benefit for the consumer, so that it's not only about what you're doing, but also what is the benefit in it. What is adding trust to your decision in the end, and this could be done in all ways, and in the AI field anyway, what all the information out there that is put into machine learning or LLMs or wherever, this just can help. And we are moving at an accelerated speed here. This is really moving forward every day, and the time is now really to accelerate this and have a big imprint for the whole sustainability movement, especially for the bio-based ingredients.
Great. Thank you very much. And staying on this wave of what is the message for certification schemes here? Agnieszka, let's come back to you and the research that you have been doing, where you identified a lot of people that maybe had a green attitude, but that wasn't translated into a green behavior, and you identify all the barriers that were preventing that. Can you just give us a couple of takeaways of what is the message for certification schemes then to help make that transition? Oh, you're muted, sorry.
Okay, sorry. So, yeah, of course. So, the message from customers with regard to certification scheme is actually clear. I would say credibility, clarity, and visibility. These are the three things that they expect. So, they need to trust. They want to trust and would like to have evidence. It should be clear, easy, and engaging. And first. Actually, maybe not first, but very important is also that they can find it. It should be visible for them. So that is also why support from digital solution is here recommended, because it helps to verify, it helps to understand, it helps to map bio-based products.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mariano, over to you. You were talking about the importance of citizen participation in the design and certification process. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, why is it important for consumers to be involved? Is it the consumers directly? Is it through association like yours?
I can answer you with a statement not by me, but the European Commissioner, that talk about the civil society organization play a crucial role to reaching out our citizens. This is important to make it think easier for consumer. It is not about simplifying reality, but about translating complexity into clarity. We can probably play a role, but I can add also another point. With public funds, with public resources, we have in each of the member state the European Consumer Center, the Eurodirect, that are offices in which if we change also something about their mandate, we can increase a lot the chance to raise awareness of the citizens. This is extremely important. Until we listen from the GG grow, like stimulating demand, it's okay. Ursula von der Leyen talk about the role of circular economy. That's okay. But no one talk about the need to reinforce the market, stimulating also the protection that is a consumer right. And so through the education, there is still a lacking point. We believe that the involvement, the participation, the inclusion as a way to reinforce this aspect in generally, but also, of course, in the certification process.
Great, thank you. And last time I talked to you, you were also making the point that organizations like yours offer a direct line to consumers, right? So we in this project with this very extensive consumer research, but working with organizations like yours also offers that that wealth of knowledge from your engagement that is quite constant with consumers as well, which I thought was a great addition to this conversation. Great. Agnieszka, in your research, you identified a group of people that are just not, not very interested in sustainability. Maybe they're not making sustainable purchases, certainly not bio-based products. So are these people that we just give up on?
No, definitely. Yes, no, definitely not. As I haven't mentioned, but in this group, actually, we identified overrepresentation of young people. And, young people are in the stage of shaping their attitude. So there is a huge potential to address some measures, some interventions on this stage to help them to shape their attitude towards green consumers. So definitely there is a huge potential there. I don't think we should give up with them.
Great. So we've heard there's a call of action for certification schemes to help educating consumers about sustainability. They can help through doing things like digital imprints that Florian was talking about. And now we know that there is also a segment of the population that is quite young, and so really this potential of education is really quite big there. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed the presentations. I certainly did. And if there were any questions, please just put them on the chat. Slides will be shared around, and maybe we can also include some answers to these questions. Thank you very much. Dushika, that's over to you for a general wrap-up for the day.
Thank you, Mara. Actually, the wrap-up will be done by our coordinator, Marit. So I'll take it to Marit.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Myra. Thank you all, our amazing panelists today. I think this was a very interesting and inspiring day. So thanks once again for all of your contribution. And also thanks for all the attendees. Well, this is a wrap up for today. Just to let you know that the recording of the event will be available at RICO website later on. I guess the link is still on the chat. If not, I will put it there. I think due to the technical issues, it might have disappeared, but I will add it up there. Yep, hope you have enjoyed, and thanks again for joining, and I hope all you a lovely continuum of the day and the rest of the week.
Thanks to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Encourage everyone to test the app, which is available on the website as well.